And you could see, and George, as Hari's son, was very dear to Prabhupada, as was Yamuna, and there weren't so many devotees there. Of course, Ganadhar was there. I think you were.
Thank you.
Okay. I read Lakshmi Mani was there, and of course Guru Das and Yamuna. But there was just this mood and this feeling that we were we had to be among the most fortunate people on earth to have these two. I mean, very powerful personalities in the world coming at the feet of the most divine, Shakyavesh avatar of God, of Krishna, in the most spiritual location in the entire cosmos. And we were fortunate to be experiencing this. And I'll end quickly. But I had the impression that I wasn't fortunate enough to be here. I was already in Mayapur when Vrindavan, when the Krishna Balaram temple opened. But I felt that those very special moments about a year before, Srila Prabhupada was laying down, along with the cement and the rebar, Prabhupada was laying down the philosophical foundation of the Hare Krishna movement and the spiritual foundation at that moment. He was here, right here, and he was establishing uh, the the power and the bhakti and the shakti coming from Krishna. He was here establishing that, and he was preaching very strongly. So this foundation was happening by the grace of Srila Prabhupada. And in the same way, I think we should all feel extremely fortunate to be here now. Srila Prabhupada is still here. This is evidenced by the movement is growing very, very nicely. There's book distribution. In America, they've just increased 70% over the past few years. And there's book distribution going on everywhere, even in the Arabic world. This is all the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We should all feel very blessed. And thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Bless Srila Prabhupada.
I just wanted to add a little footnote to what Sajjan Ryan Prabhu said about regarding George Harrison and surrendering everything. Because to put it in a historical perspective, the year before, George had donated money for what's now Bhaktivedanta Manor. So it's like that was the continuing process. Prabhupada was constantly reminding George that if you want to be successful in this life, surrender everything to Krishna. And there's another little story I can tell about that, but I won't do it that way. Later. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sachin Roy.
Well, I'm going to say a few stories. The first, I'm going to talk about my experience here in Vrindavan in '75. Then I'll talk about my first experiences with Srila Prabhupada. Then I'll tell you some funny chastisement. In 1975, I was in Bombay. I was doing cooking and working in the garden. And Srila Prabhupada, through somebody, asked me to come to Vrindavan to cook for the opening. So when I got here, I asked Srila Prabhupada if we should make 108 preparations. And Srila Prabhupada told me, no, you just make a few preparations, but make them first class. So I told Parjuma, and I talked to the Pandits, and they talked to everybody. And they said, no, we have to make 108 preparations. So I started cooking. It took me 2 days, and I cooked 68 108 preparations that were offered. Apurva was there, and a few other devotees, and Anand, Bhaktisiddhanta's personal cook, came into the kitchen. And I introduced myself to him, and he introduced himself to me. And he said he wanted to make 3 preparations. So I said, okay. So I watched him how he made these chutneys. And then I asked him, so everyone knows this is coming straight from the horse's mouth. I asked him what was Bhakti Siddhanta's most favorite prep. And he said, Urdal. So we cooked and we cooked, and then after it was all over, after we had everything already ready, then I helped Arjuna make the plates. And we did it in a special way, according to the Vedas. And then I got word from Srila Prabhupada they want me to cook for 32 VIPs that were going to cook with him, eat with him. So I was in this kitchen, a small kitchen, and there was this big pile of vegetables. I don't remember what I made or anything, but I cooked for 32 VIPs. So then the next morning, I went all over Vrindavan looking for flowers, because there was no flowers growing in Vrindavan. They had no gardens. Because I always gave Prabhupada a flower, just flower boy. So I was looking all over Vrindavan for flowers, and I found this orchard of roses. So I stole a whole bunch of roses. So they were coming down from the morning walk, and I walked up to Srila Prabhupada, and I said, please accept these flowers. He took the flowers in his hands, and he threw them on the ground. He was very angry. He was about ready to chastise me, and I hit the deck. And I didn't even want to hear it, you know. So Bhavananda picked the flowers up, and that's my experience in Vrindavan in '75. My first meeting with Srila Prabhupada was in 1973. He was coming to Los Angeles, and I was living in Laguna Beach. And we used to go to Escondido to get organic vegetables. So I collected a whole box of organic vegetables to offer to Srila Prabhupada. So I was kneeling down with this box of vegetables, and Srila Prabhupada pulled up in his car, and Swap Damodar was behind me. So Srila Prabhupada got out of his car, and he was walking towards me, and I said, Srila Prabhupada, please accept these vegetables. And Swap Damodar, out of the blue, said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, this boy has grown all these vegetables. I don't know why he said that. Anyways, Prabhupada paused for a moment. He looked at me and said, you must go to Mayapur and make gardens. So I went traveling Sankirtan all over California, collected enough money to go to India. So I flew to New York, and I told Bali Madan that Prabhupada wanted me to come to India, and I wanted to go, and he said, no, you can't go. So anyways, I went and got my visa, and I got a ticket, and I went to the 1974 Mayapur Festival, which was very funny because everybody who ate from the eggplant sabzi got dysentery. So everybody was sick. They had 3 Kavi Rajas there, and it was really a horrendous thing. I remember I was in the balcony, and Bhavananda comes up to me and says, see all that land out there? This is for you to grow. I said, I don't know how to grow anything. So Bhavananda and Tamal Krishna went into see Srila Prabhupada, and they had a discussion, and then it was decided that I go to Bombay. So I went to Bombay, and I met Chaitya Guru, and he told me that I was supposed to tear apart Narayan's garden and start a new garden. So Prabhupada finally came to Bombay, and Chaitya Guru said, why don't you go up and see Srila Prabhupada? I said, no, I didn't want to go, but he forced me to go up. So anyways, I went up to Srila Prabhupada's quarters with Chaitya Guru, and Prabhupada was laying on these cushions. They had one cushion in the front, one cushion in the back, and he was laying down, and then him and Chaitya Guru were talking in Hindi and laughing. And finally, after they stopped laughing and talking, I said, Srila Prabhupada, you've asked me to come here to Bombay. What would you like me to do? And Srila Prabhupada said, I want you to plant a flower in every square inch of land in this Juhu property. So I was completely bewildered. So the next day, Chaitya Guru said, you go up and see Srila Prabhupada again. So the same thing happened. I went up to the room, Prabhupada was laying down on the cushion, they were laughing and joking in Hindi. And then I said, Srila Prabhupada, would you like me to grow some vegetables? And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I want vegetables are cheaper to get in the market. I said, what about fruits? He says, yes, grow guava, chiku, and bananas. So I started a fruit garden in the Bombay property. And then in 74, Srila Prabhupada wired me from we had someone wire me from Calcutta and asked me he wanted me to come to Mayapur to do something for him. So Giri Raj, being Giri Raj, got me a third class ticket on the slowest train to Calcutta. By the time I got to Calcutta, they stole my luggage, they stole my shoes. I had nothing left. I was a poor brahmachari. So I finally got to Mayapur, and they were coming down from the morning walk, and Bhagavan said to Srila Prabhupada, your gardener from Bombay is here. So Prabhupada looked at me and didn't say anything, and then we went on a morning walk. Then as we're coming back from the morning walk, there's this one arch before you get to the Lotus building, and there were some cows there. I never seen cows before. So I was goofing off with the cows, and everybody was walking ahead. And then Srila Prabhupada turned around and said, Shankar, come here! So I go running up to Srila Prabhupada, and I said, what would you like me to do? And he said, I want you to put trees on both sides of the road here. So Jai Patakas and Bengali boys and myself, we planted the first coconut trees in Mayapur. They were still there until they started building this new planetarium. I also planted the first rose gardens in Mayapur, the first banana trees, and I planted the marigolds before I left back to Bombay. Yeah, gardenia, sure, I did all that stuff. Anyways, I got back to Bombay, and then there's some funny chastising. One day in 74, Mother Palika was Prabhupada's. She went to Buldeshwar in Bombay to buy Prabhupada's fruits. And she was very sick, so she asked me to go and buy the fruits. I said, all right. So I got in a taxi cab and I went to Buldeshwar and I was buying all these fruits. And I seen this vendor who had this whole cart full of beautiful oranges. So I had him cut one and I tasted it. It was really sweet and good. So I bought a whole gunny bag full of oranges for Srila Prabhupada. So I brought all the fruits back and everything. And then 3 days later, on a morning walk, I went on a lot of morning walks. Anyways, at the end of this morning walk, there was this house on top of a hill that had big windows, and the sun was reflecting off the windows, and Srila Prabhupada started talking about the perverted reflection of the material world. And then out of the blue he said, who has bought me these oranges? So me being a puffed up brahmachari go running up to Srila Prabhupada and say, I bought the oranges, Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada said, those oranges are 10th class, just like you. And then he told me that the oranges were picked during the right season and put in refrigerators. That's one chastisement. And then also in 74, they asked me to make samosas for Srila Prabhupada. And I had this recipe for 5 vegetable Gujarati samosas. So I made this beautiful filling, and I rolled out these puris about that big, and I rolled them over, and I made these samosas. 32 of them I made. And I sent them up to Srila Prabhupada. So a few days later, I asked Brahmananda, did Prabhupada like the samosas? And he said, Prabhupada didn't touch them. And I was bewildered. So then one day, then a couple days later, Hare, he was my friend, he was a brahmachari then, he comes to me and said, how would you like to help me make Prabhupada's lunch? I said, okay. So we went up to Prabhupada's quarters, and some Indian cook was there before I got there, and he had made this elaborate feast for these VIPs that were going to eat lunch here at Prabhupada, and he made samosas, but they were the small Indian-type samosas, diamond-shaped like. So me and Harikesh are having a good old time cooking Prabhupada's lunch. Then Srila Prabhupada comes walking in the room. He looked at me, and he looked at the big pile of samosas, and he said, did you make these samosas? I said, oh no, Srila Prabhupada. Some Indian guy made these samosas. He says, you know, you don't know how to make samosas. You don't know how to make footballs. Then he looked at me and Harikesh and says, you know, you two are expert in messing everything up. And he walked out of the room. Then I served him his lunch. I did that 2 days in a row. And also in 1974, uh, they want me to turn on the water pump. And when you turn on this water pump, it fills up all the tanks on top of all the buildings with water so everyone can use the water. So before Mangal Arctic, I went up on the roof. I checked all the water tanks and they were all full. So me being a puffed up brahmachari, I figured I shouldn't turn the water pump on right now because it will disturb Sri Prabhupada during Mangal Arctic because it makes a lot of noise. So I went around collecting Prabhupada's flowers and I didn't turn the water pump on. And after Mangal Arctic, I turned the water pump on. So then I had the flowers in my hand and Paramahansa saw me come up to me and said, "Are you the one responsible for turning on the water?" I said, "Yes." Well, Sri Prabhupada went to pass and he didn't have water to clean himself and he wants to talk to you right now. So I was very, very scared. So I went up to the room and I went into his room and there was a light in the room. And Sri Prabhupada was there meditating or doing his Gayatri. And then he opened his eyes and he said, "Yes." I said, "Oh, Sri Prabhupada, I made a mistake." He said, "Yes, everything you do is a mistake. Gotta leave me alone." And I stood there completely bewildered. And Sri Prabhupada looked at me again and said, "Gotta leave me alone." So then I gave the flowers to Giri Raj, and I went on top of the roof, and I told the buddies about it, and they told me I should kill myself, and they were telling me all kinds of weird things. So I just went in the roof, and I gave Giri Raj the flowers to give to Prabhupada. Then they came back from the morning walk, and I asked Giri Raj, "Did you give Prabhupada the flowers?" He said, "Yes." As soon as I gave him the flowers, Prabhupada said, "Where's my flower boy?" Then in the early days in 1974, I didn't know how to cook very well, but I learned how to make sweets. So I made all the Mangal Artik sweets. And when every time Sri Prabhupada came to Bombay, he would eat the Mangal Artik sweets. So one day on a morning walk, I gave him his flowers. And then Sri Prabhupada told me that the king of sweet rice is saffron sweet rice. He told me a lot of things like that. On another morning walk, he told me that the king of vegetables is potatoes and the queen is cauliflower. And when you mix them together, you have a heavenly dish. And he told me the king of fruits is the fig and the queen is the mango. Right? Well, he told other people other things. That's what he told me. So that's just some of the pastimes that I have with Sri Prabhupada. Oh, then in 1976, I had to go to Hyderabad. They sent me to Hyderabad. So when I was in Hyderabad, I became the head pujari when they opened the temple. I cooked the opening feast for that too. And Sri Prabhupada came there to the farm. And I was at the farm at the time. And a devotee asked Sri Prabhupada, "What do you do when you see an alien or a UFO?" And Prabhupada said, "You run." And then one time in '76, I went back to when I went back to Bombay. It was a room full of devotees, and I asked Sri Prabhupada. I said, "Sri Prabhupada, what is the benefit of all the flowers that we offer to Krishna?" And Prabhupada said, "Every flower you offer to your spiritual master or Krishna, the plant the flower came from becomes a human being in its next life." So my preaching began. I started working in the garden as a gardener in Bombay. And then it was Bhakti Siddhanta's appearance or disappearance, I don't remember. But we made 108 preparations. I made 98 of 108 preparations. So Gopal Krishna came up to me and said, "You must go up and tell Srila Prabhupada what you made." So I went up to Srila Prabhupada's quarters and he was sitting there, and in front of this table he had 108 preparations in little bowls. So he asked me, "What's this?" I told him what it was and he ate it. He said, "What's this?" I told him what it was and he ate it. He said, "What's this?" I told him what it was and he ate it. And the fifth time, he said, "What's this?" I told him what it was and he ate it. He says, "Radharani has prepared this. You can go." So that was a good pastime. Anyways, I'm taking up enough time now, so I'll pass it to the next devotee.
Chila, Lumban Thai, Jackie Patamam Foundation. I want to thank all the devotees for their association and beg their forgiveness for any offenses I may have committed. There's my opportunity to serve came much later than the other devotees, but at least for me, the sweetness that they were experiencing, I felt through them and through Srila Prabhupada's presence. I first visited Vrindavan just after Srila Prabhupada left. We were the back, how can you say? We took care of the temple while everyone else went to see Srila Prabhupada's disappearance. And of course we didn't mind. We were doing our service to Srila Prabhupada. And we felt that that was what we should be doing. But then the opportunity came at the end of December in '77. And when we visited Vrindavan and came, of course we wanted to see there wasn't a samadhi at that time, but they had finished the construction of a small hut. And I remember when we came in, it was quite cold, and it was raining, and Ayodhyapati Prabhu was doing the arti to Srila Prabhupada, and it was a very simple, Srila Prabhupada's photo was there on a small asana, and there was just a concrete platform, just barely a foot high. And only the pujari could be in the room, this small little shed, not really and then everyone else was just out in front of the shed, in the rain, in the cold. But it was that, there was a certain anticipation. We'd all been waiting to see Srila Prabhupada, and now we finally had the opportunity. And for us, there was some closure. But again, there was separation. We couldn't stay. We had to leave again to go back to our respective services. At that time, I was serving in we had the 55th Street Temple, large temple. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said he wanted his samadhi to be on the top of the roof. And you'll see there are some nice photos of Srila Prabhupada evening darshan. And in the background is the Empire State Building. So it was a very, even in the midst of the hustle of the city, it was a very peaceful atmosphere. And you felt, just by Srila Prabhupada's presence, that it really wasn't just New York City, but it was the spiritual world. Of course, he had that effect anywhere he was, but we were in New York, and we certainly, in one instance, we couldn't, because we were just, at that time, I had just gotten second initiation. So Prabhupada was, we weren't really older devotees. All the older devotees were in the darshan. And for us to sort of sneak up, we had to go up to the elevator room, which protruded on the roof, and then we could eavesdrop on the evening darshans. So that was our way of getting around the, not really being in the inner circle. But somehow the temple was sold, and we moved a couple of times, actually. And after we finished renovating Radha Govinda's Skimmerhorn Street Temple, the current temple. And in 1984, I remember Gopal Krishna Maharaj came through, and he asked me, why don't you come to India? I said, come to Bombay. I said, but you have so many, I'd been to Bombay, visited many times, so many nice devotees managing there. I said, there's really nothing for me to do in Bombay. I said, what about Vrindavan? I really wanted to go to Vrindavan. He said, no, there's nothing in Vrindavan. I said, I've just been doing some construction work. Can I help? Isn't there? So he didn't encourage me, but it was in my mind that I really wanted to see Srila Prabhupada again. So somehow or other, I thought to myself, prayed to Krishna, please, I was doing construction. I said, maybe there must be something I can do. I know that they're building. I knew the samadhi was being constructed. I saw the beautiful designs. I knew some of the devotees that were working there. And we when I visited, I think the last time we were there in 1980, they had a beautiful office, and I remember Sarabi was there, Maheshwar, and so many other devotees right on the ground floor of the Gurukul. All the drafting tables were set up, and the designs were just amazing. In this beautiful traditional carved style. I thought that would be a wonderful thing. So we went. We somehow or other I convinced my young wife that we were just going to leave everything in New York, family, friends, whatever was there, and we were going to travel to Vrindavan with our young daughter, and we were going to find service. And being a little naive about the situation, we arrived there, and we had Toshan Krishna Baru, we knew from New York. When I joined in '74, Toshan Krishna was there, Mother Sunita. And they gave us shelter and said, you stay with us and, we'll work something out. And then somehow or other, I remember going to see Sarabi and sort of trying to insert myself without any qualification or anything, but just looking for any opportunity to carry a cement bag or whatever was required. And in his kindness, he gave me that opportunity and just said, you can do something. And so that first thing was just to find out. There was somehow or other, one of the devotees who had been there, our godbrother, Baba Bhuti, he became seriously ill. So he had to leave the site. And I had known this. So my coming there was, I don't know if it was an advantage or not to be there, but in his absence, as things happened, the Gurukul had sort of taken up all the space that was previously set aside for the Samadhi office and on-site functioning. So I just wanted to try to help, and there wasn't anything happening on the site. There was no construction going on. So I asked, where is the Samadhi? There was a beautiful office here. Where's the Samadhi office? So there was, and actually there was no temple president at the time. In between, there was acting temple president was Nava Yogendra Maharaj, and Yoginath Baru was the vice president. And for some reason, no one really knew what was going on with the Samadhi there, except Sarabi Maharaj. I mean, on site in Vrindavan, there was no evidence. So I said, well, there must be something. There must be flat files, there must be drawings, there must be something. So one person said, well, there's a room here. I think you'll find some things. And as soon as you go into Gurukul, it's not really a room, it's just like a closet almost. And he somehow or other he managed to find the key, and he opened it up, and inside this room looked like there were 3 rooms of furniture that had been thrown into this room. Just completely topsy-turvy. File cabinets all askew, upside down, and just files just strewn everywhere. Like nobody was watching. In the middle of the night, they just closed up everything. So I asked Sarabi if I could straighten out those files. He said, yes, just try to get everything together, find everything, put it in order. So that took some time. And then one day, this young boy showed up and said he was Baba Bhuti's assistant. And they brought me a wooden box. And in the box were some checks, but the box was otherwise empty. So I reported to Sarabi and said, they brought me a box, but it's empty. I said, what should we do? And then he explained the system, how the money, how much each truck of marble costs, how much the fixing expenses are expected to cost, how long this money lasts until the next allocation. And then with that in trying to understand all the, I thought coming to India, I was reasonably, again, have to use the word naive. All these devotees, Sarabi, Dhananjay, they'd been here for years, and done all this construction. So they knew what it means to do construction in India, and I had no clue that things don't happen. You can't just go to a building supply store down on Atlantic Avenue and order a few trucks of sheetrock and all the metal studs and materials you need to construct something. Slowly, I realized that if we wanted to get marble, we had to travel by train or other conveyance hundreds of kilometers into the interior of Rajasthan to go to a small town called Makrana, where traditionally all the marble would come from for that area. And then realizing the scope of the construction, I became a little bit concerned that I've made a commitment that may take a dozen years, and not realizing how long. And I was thinking, oh, this will be done, the scope of this and the size, I thought this will just take a couple of years. How long can it take? Just a small building. But Sarabi Maharaj carefully explained everything and encouraged us. And that shelter was very comforting because we didn't have, like I said, it was a completely different experience from living anywhere else in the world. But slowly, the construction continued. The marble came in regularly. The site again became busy with work, and the familiar sound of chipping away at marble, which became an all-pervading for the many years that we were there, just the constant contact of a stone chisel onto and the ring of the marble, because marble has a beautiful sound when it's being carved, actually. And it was very comforting to hear. And I remember that someone had told me that Srila Prabhupada also used to like to hear the sound. That was a reassuring that the construction was ongoing. But the greatest, from my perspective, my small perspective, the opportunity and the mercy to serve Srila Prabhupada directly again was at least for me, what I had been looking for since Srila Prabhupada's departure. I had felt something missing. And of course, we had Srila Prabhupada's books, and we were fully engaged in service, serving Radha Govinda in different capacities. But something was still missing. When I came to Vrindavan, and I first paid my obeisances there again, and realized that I'm in Srila Prabhupada's presence again, I felt like I felt when I joined. To be in that, as Shankar was so nicely explaining, that intimate interaction that some of us didn't have in the later years was very, very much always in my mind as we did this work. That Srila Prabhupada is here, not that which is just some ordinary building, but that this is the resting place of the person who gave us this wonderful, wonderful society. So I don't really have much to add. By everyone's mercy, I was able to stay for 6 years, and it was certainly the most, at least in my mind, at least in my small experience of Krishna consciousness, the greatest service that I was able to render to Srila Prabhupada. So thank everybody. Thank all the devotees for tolerating me for so many years.
I just wanted to say something. Thank you, Prabhu. I just wanted to say something briefly that I share with Shankar Prabhu. He mentioned when he went to the roof and they had suggested that he commit suicide. What was that? I had an interesting experience like that also. When I first was at that temple in Delhi, one day on a bright winter morning, I went upstairs and Shrutakirti was massaging Srila Prabhupada. And I had gotten a degree in biology, and I had this like I don't know, genetic need or something to want to be a doctor or something, and so I had written Prabhupada about this, and thought maybe if I couch it in being an Ayurvedic doctor rather than a Western doctor, which I really wanted, then maybe he would agree to that. You know, how could he refuse? It's the Vedas. And then anyway, I approached Srila Prabhupada. It's obviously a mistake. While he's getting massaged, and I said, Srila Prabhupada, I had written you about studying under your Kaviraj in Calcutta, uh, and I wondered if we could. And he interrupted me, and he just said, "Not now." So I literally felt like jumping off the roof at that time, and but then by his kindness, uh, just to show how just a few sentences can change the direction of one's life. Uh, it was about 8 months later in Calcutta when I was able to meet with Srila Prabhupada alone, and again, he was not interested, and he just said, that was one of the times he said, there are so many doctors, but the death rate is still 100%. And then I knew that wasn't going to go well at that point. Um, and then he said Ayurveda, and he said Western medicine is very advanced. So then it completely took the foundation out from my argument, and then I didn't know what to say. And ultimately, he lifted up one of his books and said, "Just work with my books and be a spiritual doctor." Which I hope we're still trying to do that. So if Srila Prabhupada would just, in a word or two, he would set one straight in the proper thing to do. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Please, Prabhu, save us.
All right, just to recap, I was kind of like in limbo between November 1974 and the Gaur Purnima festival, because I still hadn't heard any word back from Prabhupada what I should be doing, because I was still traveling and making life members with Tejas Prabhu. Finally, then Prabhupada wrote to me and he said, "Come to Mayapur." So this is March of 1975. And it was there that it was concluded that Prabhupada had agreed that there should be two presidents for Vrindavan, an external president and an internal president. And Akshayananda Swami was to be the external president, and I was to be the internal president. And of course, I knew Akshayananda Swami because I'd shaved him up in Amsterdam. So I thought, okay, that's... And then I found out that the reason that Prabhupada had decided this was because quite a number of Prabhupada's sannyasi GBC men didn't approve of a householder being president in Vrindavan, because their understanding was that Vrindavan is a place meant for renunciation. And I thought, what about all the people in Loy Bazaar then? Where do they fit in? What about all the other Brijbasis that are living in Brajabhumi? Where do they fit in? And of course, Prabhupada wasn't against his householders, and he wasn't favoring his sannyasis, but, he listened to their arguments, and this is the conclusion. And that was it. Then, of course, officially now we were about to open the temple on Ram Navami, 1975. And as Hare Prabhu said the other day, that the chief guest of honor was Dr. Chana Reddy, the governor of UP. And for a whole week before he came, Prabhupada had engaged all of the local pandas, Goswamis, and Brahmanas to install the deities. And the reason, or the logic behind that, was that if he had allowed his foreign devotees, Angrejika Bhakta Lok, to do this ceremony, then there would be so much criticism that, who are these people? They're not from Brahmana families. They're mlechas, they're low caste, they don't have a history, they don't have any family connection with Vrindavan. So Prabhupada, being a super genius, he decided, let them install the deities and they definitely won't criticize each other. And they'll get the job done. Although later on he actually said to us that simply by chanting Harinam Kirtan, that was sufficient to install the deities in Kali Yuga. And not only did he allow them to set up all their rituals and paraphernalia in the courtyard, and this whole process of the deities were covered in white cloth, and so many different things were done, and so many mantras were said. And they started off in the middle of the courtyard, and then slowly they moved the deities day by day closer to the altar until finally the only piece of cloth left on their bodies was a strip covering their eyes. And then, of course, then once that strip of cloth had been removed and the deities were placed on the altar, that was the finale of the Pran Pratisha, the 7-day-long installation ceremony. And he also handed out little envelopes with different amounts of rupee value notes inside according to the status. And he personally handed each of the Brahmanas and the Pandas and the Goswamis an envelope according to their status. So they were also financially rewarded as well as being allowed to install the deities. And I just wanted to also mention that before the deities were installed, of course they were being kept in Prabhupada's back room in his house. And he asked me, he said, have you seen the deities yet? I said, no, Srila Prabhupada, I never went back there. He said, go and have a look. And so I went in there and saw how they were beautifully carved and beautifully finished. And then I came back, paid my obeisances, and he said, what do you think? I said, I think that the pujaris will be very happy to dress those deities, because in the past, all of our deities that we were worshipping, like Radha Landanishwara, Radha Gokulananda, Rukmini Dwarkadish, they all came with marble clothing. It's already carved, and marble crowns and so on, and bangles and bracelets and necklaces. And sometimes it was not that easy to dress for the pujaris. But these deities were all smoothly finished and wearing the minimal amount of clothing. Still very chaste, but I could see that the pujaris would be very happy. And then when I was saying this to Prabhupada, I said, Prabhupada, we all know that our temple is going to be called the Krishna Balaram Mandir. But some devotees have come to me and asked me, have you got a name for the Radha Krishna deities? Have you considered a name? He said, no. He said, you can think of a name? And on the spot I said, what about Radha Shyam Sundar? He said, yes. Then they'll be called Radha Shyam Sundar. And a few days later, he called me in and he said that I want you to chant a particular kirtan, a particular bhajan. And the words of the bhajan go like this: Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam Jaya Krishna Balaram. Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam Jaya Krishna Balaram. And he said that this mantra is very important, because not only will the Babajis who are residing in the Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam ashram behind the International Guest House be happy, because they will hear something, Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam, of course. Of course, their mantra ends with Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. So that's Rasabas. He said, but our mantra, Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam, Jai Krishna Balaram, is bona fide. Why? Because we're glorifying all of the deities on the altar. So he said that this should be introduced into Kirtan every day. Is this being done? Anybody singing Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam Jai Krishna Balaram? Well, this is something that Dinabandha Prabhu put up his hands. So let it be known that this is something that actually Prabhupada desired. It wasn't a whimsical thing, he actually wanted it to be sung during Kirtan. And it's not whimsical. It's not something that was devised by somebody. No, these words came from the lips of Srila Prabhupada himself. So when the Pramadishta ceremony was over and the governor came, it was my responsibility to look after him. Of course, he came with a whole retinue of security officers and so on. And it was in the evening after 6 o'clock, because many devotees were asking also what kind of prasadam was served on Ram Navami. It was grain prasadam. It wasn't Ekadashi prasadam, it was grain prasadam. Because I had to serve puris to Prabhupada and to the governor. And the feast was ready by 6 o'clock in the evening. And of course, we've seen the photograph of Prabhupada offering the first arti to Sri Sri Krishna Balaram. That was taken by Vishaka Devi. And there was about 400 devotees present at that time. And there's also photos taken of all the 400 devotees standing outside the front entrance to the temple. And I'm sure many of you who are here, my dear godbrothers and dear godsisters, were you present in that photo? How many? Please put up your hands. Oh, there's less than I thought. I thought there'd be a lot more. My goodness. But that was a very special occasion. And of course, after that, what did Prabhupada want? He wanted a big parade, a big procession through Vrindavan. And so there's that wonderful photograph that adorns the cover of Festivals of India, which was written and produced by His Holiness Lokanath Swami. And so that procession was led by an elephant. There was also a moving little altar, and Prabhupada walked the whole way. Although, of course, he wasn't feeling very well at that time. Not many devotees know that, but actually he had quite a fever, even when he was sitting very animatedly talking with Dr. Chanda Reddy, the governor of UP. And so officially, the temple went from being a construction site one day to being a fully open temple the next day. It was an amazing transformation. And of course, it was complete in time, on time for Ram Navami. And Srila Prabhupada gave so much credit to Surabi. But there was one little thing he said, and that was to do with the Parikrama path, about the red sandstone slabs. He said that the slabs were cut too thin. He said that the slabs should be as thick as the slabs you find at the Radha Govinda temple. He said everyone is praising Surab, but I'm criticizing Surab. But that is my position. As Guru, I'm permitted to criticize and chastise my disciples. But in a very loving way. And also Prabhupada, of course, he really was the temple president in the first few months. He was the one who was deciding how many preparations to be offered, especially for the Raj Bhog. I remember he wanted 25 preparations. He wanted, also Hari Prabhu touched on that point, that he wanted a plate for every deity, which came to a total of 10 plates. And Jamuna had organized these marble plates. There was marble plates, but that wasn't very practical because when it came to washing up, the plates broke. So I asked Prabhupada, I said, how should we replace these? He said, well, he said, the purest of plates is made from lotus leaves. I said, Prabhupada, there's not many lotus ponds around in Vrindavan. I don't think we'll get a regular supply of lotus leaves. He said, then well, after lotus leaves, gold is the purest. And after gold, there's silver. And after silver, there's bell metal. And so what I did was I went out and purchased a whole set of bell metal plates and carved the names of all the deities. There was one plate for Prabhupada, one for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one for Lord Chaitanya, one for Nityananda Prabhu, one for Krishna, one for Balaram, one for Radharani, one for Shamsundar, one for Lalita, and one for Vishaka Devi. And he said that we should sell Maha Prasad. He said, just like in Banki Bihari, he said that temple is maintained just by the sale of Banki Bihari Maha Prasad. So he said our temple should also be maintained by Krishna Balaram Maha Prasad.
Dhananjay, do you remember when Prabhupada used the aeroplane, the way people are served on an aeroplane? Because there was one point where we had the one kitchen and all the plates were coming out of that kitchen covered, and we had to walk the whole length of the temple on the side to go into the deity kitchen and then onto the altar. That's where the prasada was being cooked at one point. Prabhupada used the example of how, of course, everything's heated up in an aeroplane, right? But Prabhupada made the point that it should be offered and served as if it's like an aeroplane. And that's what happened. Don't you remember that? Yeah. It's like we were all, the devotee prasada was being cooked before the little deity kitchen was used. I remember very clearly. Do you remember that? Yeah. I remember it was like a nightmare because we were all coming from one place and we were just thinking, how are we going to achieve this? Because Prabhupada used to turn us inside out, upside down, and back to front. And I remember there was a period of time where this was trialed. And I think at a point it didn't carry on because it was just too complex. And I think everything reverted back to the small kitchen on the side of the temple. But I remember there was a period of time when the pujaris were carrying plates of prasadam from the Gurukul kitchen underneath. Definitely 100%. And I'm wondering why no one else remembers it. Was I dreaming it or?
But in reply to your question,
Yeah.
I never heard that terminology used of like serving on an airplane.
Yeah.
I personally never heard that from Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Now also, the name Anand Prabhu was also mentioned. Now Anand Prabhu was Prabhupada's godbrother, and as was mentioned, was also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's personal cook for some time. He was from Orissa, and he came from the Imli Tala Mandir. And he was quite advanced in age, about the same age as Prabhupada. And he would cook for the deities, and also he would serve prasadam for the devotees. But one thing he would never do, and that was he would never sit with the devotees and take prasadam. And one morning, because of course Prabhupada was going for a morning walk every single morning without fail, and I had to be on every single morning walk, whether I wanted to or not. And many times I would show up late because there was always some emergency happening somewhere. And we'll go into more detail about that tomorrow, but not tonight. But one morning Prabhupada turned to me, because actually he had asked for the different bills from the from the shopping for atta, for rice, for dal, for sabjis, so many different things. He was scrutinizing everything, and of course for cooking oil and ghee. And he worked out, and we didn't know this at all, that Anand Prabhu was stealing ghee and taking it down to Imli Tala Mandir. But because the ratio of ghee to atta wasn't matching, he deduced this is what Anand Prabhu was doing. So he told me, he said, you have to tell Anand Prabhu that we found out that you're stealing the ghee and now you must leave. And I felt quite embarrassed. I said, Srila Prabhupada, this is your own god brother we're talking about here. This is not just any brahmachari from somewhere in the West. I don't really feel qualified, and of course I couldn't speak Oriya or I couldn't speak Bengali, and I really felt that if I tried to explain what Prabhupada wanted, it would be a disaster. I said, okay, I'll tell him. And so that same morning as we were coming back from the walk, because Prabhupada would walk the same distance every morning. It was calculated he would get to this particular little structure on what at that time was called Chatikara Road, and then he would turn around and come back. And he'd always come back by 7 o'clock in the morning. He'd leave by 6 and come back at 7. And there was always 30, 40 GBC and sannyasis and visiting devotees and guests and so on and so forth on that morning walk. And it was quite extraordinary actually to be able to be with Srila Prabhupada during this time. And so as he was coming towards the entrance to the temple, some another Anand Prabhu just showed up at that same moment. And a very sweet exchange. It was like they were talking really very intimately with each other. Prabhupada gave him the sack. What we say in England, he was fired. He couldn't stay in the temple anymore because and he admitted that he was actually doing this. And he did it in such an expert way.
I was there when that happened.
So was I.
There's a small group of us, and Prabhupada just it's almost like in whispers, you know. And then then he just turned around and walked, didn't he? I wanted to ask you a question as the first president in Vrindavan.
I would just like to make a little remark that I wasn't the first president. That actually the first president, if you remember, was who?
Well,
Kiradakshaya Vishnu.
No, but what I meant was after the opening.
After the opening, yes.
The temple.
But actually, historically, there was Kiradakshaya Vishnu,
Yeah,
then there was Gurudas, then there was Harikesh, and then there was me.
Yeah.
So I was the fourth,
Okay.
historically speaking, but as far as the opening of the temple, the first.
So as the fourth and the first president,
Simultaneously.
yeah. Could you give us a little insight on the 24-hour kirtan?
Yeah, actually Prabhupada was, first of all, inspired by the 24-hour kirtan that was going on just down the road from the temple at the Sitaram ashram. And that ashram is still there today. And they had been chanting, and this is way back in 1975, for 65 years. So they started in 1910, before the First World War, and they were still going strong 65 years later. And so Prabhupada wanted, he had the strategy that he said at that time, he said we have 120 temples. He said each temple president should allow one devotee from each of the temples to come to Vrindavan for 3 months at a time. And then we can divide up the 24 hours and how we can engage those 120 devotees. And he didn't discriminate. He didn't say just the men. He also wanted the ladies to lead or to sing in the 24-hour kirtan as well. My wife and I, Balagopal, we usually end up doing the shift from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. because that was like the least favorite time to chant for most devotees. And I just remember that the time of the year too, we had these insects that we called flying saucers. I don't know if they're still around, but there were these like flying crabs. They had these hard shells. and there were the weirdest looking things, and they would give you a real heavy knock, if they hit you on the head. They sometimes to duck. Don't know if anybody else has had that experience here, but it seems like in the 70s there was just like so many different insects, especially the ones that lost their wings, you know. There was all different kind of creepy crawlies, and you'd be kind of like expecting them to end up crawling underneath your sari or your dhoti and giving you a little nip, to make sure you're still awake. It was just like, ugh, creepy.
You're getting
anyway,
into detail again, Dana John.
Sorry. But anyway, that was what Prabhupada said. There was also Pranav's wife, Vanamali, her name was. Anybody remember Vanamali? Yeah, okay. And so Prabhupada, actually he called Pranav and said, because you speak fluent Hindi, because he was a Gupta, that you should sit in the courtyard and have a kirtan and speak on Bhagavad Gita in Hindi. And Pranav, he said, oh, Prabhupada-ji, I'm not so good at these things, but my wife, she's very expert at singing and speaking. And he said, all right, your wife can lead. She can sing kirtan, play harmonium, and give Gita class. That's confirmed, by the way. Anything else? Anybody else got any questions so far? Yes. 5 minutes? All right, we've got 5 minutes for questions, or we can speak a little bit more. Lokanath Swami, you putting your help? But of course, this 24-hour kirtan should be organized really systematically, because like I said, Prabhupada wanted 120 devotees to engage in this 24-hour kirtan.
You said one time that different devotees were having their own deities or Giriraj Shilas, and as a result the attendance was minimizing at the temples. Prabhupada asked you to go around and collect all those Shilas. You remember, I had interviewed you, and you want to say something more about
the deities? Well, of course.
Personal, private deities.
Well, I mean, it's just like, it's logical that our deities are on the altar. And they're the ones that we should be serving and worshipping, and not engaging in private deity worship. Private deity worship is okay for those devotees who are living a long, long distance from a temple. But really the main focal attention should be on the deities on the altar. I mean, that's why Prabhupada went to so much, spent so much of his life here, and energy, and concentration on Krishna Balaram Mandir. These are our Ishta Devs. Another thing Prabhupada said too, while I think about it, is that Prabhupada wanted a thriving householder community in Vrindavan. That's honestly what he said. And I asked him, I said, where should that be? And he said, oh, somewhere behind the Krishna Balaram property. And I said, what should it look like? He said it should be comprised of apartments, linked apartments. And there should be gardens, there should be a playground for the children, there should be good security. And so if you haven't seen the MBT, if you go to the MBT, what you see is exactly what Prabhupada predicted in 1975. It's quite extraordinary. Then he also said, beside that thriving Grihastha community, there should also be a Vanapras community. I said, well, where should they be living? He said, somewhere in the forest, a little bit further away.
I just wanted to make a little point in response to Lokanath Maharaj's question regarding Govardhan Shilas and different other Shilas. Prabhupada didn't encourage that at all. I personally took some Govardhan Shilas back. Actually, Prabhupada wrote a letter all around ISKCON explaining about that. That devotees would come to Govardhan and just take Shilas, just walk on the hill and just take. Prabhupada didn't like that at all. And he wrote a general letter explaining that they should all bring the Shilas back. What's wrong?
Thank you, everybody, because we've just been told now that we have to move on. There's an evening cultural program, is that right? So we're going to wind up, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning for Mangalarti. But I think also in the evening, I heard, the little bird told me, that at 7:30, Bibi Govinda Maharaj will be leading kirtan in the temple after the evening arti in the temple. Now the Krishna hall will be used for the cultural program. Tonight you'll be leading kirtan. I've been told. Let's hope so.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your time and for your...
A big round of applause for our Prabhus here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. As he said, the cultural program starts here in just a few minutes, and the Brajavadu's band, also chanting, will be going on here. But lecture, 6:30, yes, right now. Yeah, right now there'll be a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. Be sure to come back tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We will have Dinabandhu Prabhu, Akuti Mataji, Bhima Prabhu and his wife, Jalaltala Mataji. And then in the afternoon program from 4 to 6 will be Gunarnava Prabhu, Sarabi Prabhu, Guru Kripa Prabhu, and Banabhata Prabhu. So tomorrow's... Can't hear it? Yes, tomorrow morning, 11 to 1. And the afternoon is 4 to 6. So everyone, please come and attend. Thank you very much for being here. We'll see you all tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Which language should I should speak English or I should speak Hindi? So the foreign devotee says, no, Prabhupada, English. Mataji says, Maharaj, if you can say Hindi, they said in Hindi, आप अगर हिंदी में बोलेगा तो बहुत अच्छा है. Then Prabhupada said, no, I'll take Mataji's side. So Prabhupada gave lecture Hindi. I mean, those days I can remember, and I didn't know Hindi much anyway. Prabhupada was from Allahabad. He was from Allahabad. My parents used to, when I was young, my father used to go Prabhupada's house in Allahabad, and with his brother, and they had a bicycle, and they go here, there, and Prabhupada used to come our house. My grandfather has lots of land in Calcutta, and he has a big garden in Bansdhanikal, and many places he is like a buy the land and make garden. He has that, and he actually, we are Subarnamanik. Our business was gold, but he used to buy the land. He has lots of place. So Prabhupada is, my grandfather Prabhupada used to like so much. He used to come, whenever he comes to Taliganj, he comes to our house. I never born. My father was only young. He was the young, my father had 9 brothers and 1 sister. He was the 8th son of children. And when Prabhupada comes, he gives everybody one. He used to tell us when we got bigger, he used to say when Prabhupada comes, he used to bring for us that tooth powder, and he gives us tooth powder, all kids, and then he go our garden, enjoyed the 1-2 days stay there. Actually, my father's house is auntie's house, so he used to come auntie's house, and then he talk with them, then go back again. He buy some. He used to make some tooth powder, all ingredients. There was shop there in Taliganj. So he used to buy those things and go back to Allahabad again. Like that he comes back and forth. And these kids also goes there, back and forth there, enjoy with the Prabhupada, and then come back. So like that we enjoyed Prabhupada's like anything. And I never been to Vrindavan, but first time in Vrindavan I came was after Prabhupada left. I wanted to come before, but never happened somehow or other. So I came to Vrindavan after Prabhupada passed away, but just few years, 1980 I think I came first time. Vrindavan was so, those days I came to the guest house, me and my friend, actually one more of my god sisters supposed to come, but she's last moment she said no, I can come. We came Tufan Express and came, was Kartik time, was evening like almost coming. So 4 o'clock like we got out of the station. I didn't know even what is the name of the temple. One of the ladies, she said, where you are going? And I said, we have a temple, ISKCON. So she said, oh, Krishna Balaram temple. He said, yeah, yeah. So I see the one, she had one, something was BTG book or something. She is some, anyway, so I don't know, right or left. We got in the rickshaw. I told her, listen, I am from city and this is, Vrindavan is no, only trees and nobody on the road much, only the Bojavasis. And here is Kartik time. So nowadays Kartik time, those days Kartik time different. So I thought, how to go even, I don't know, left or right. And she is my friend, my godbrothers just got married and newly wife. So something happened. So then I told rickshawala, oh, somebody says Ingrej Mandir. So I remember that Ingrej Mandir. Okay, Ingrej Mandir chalo. So now I am telling her, pray to Nisringadev, pray to Nisringadev. We are praying Nisringadev, Nisringadev. This way, that way, got to the temple, came to the temple here. On the way we saw Sakshi Gopal. I said, oh, nice deity is there. We'll see tomorrow. I got little bit that time brave. Now is proper way coming. And those days, one only, the road, only 100 bulb only on the road, maybe one on the street, that's all. So now we came to the temple and they said, we have no room, you go Sadhu Vela. So we went, somebody took us and we don't know Sadhu Vela where, opposite Foglasam somewhere. So we went Sadhu Vela. There is room for 10 rupees, there is room for 5 rupees. So we were cheap, both to our save some money. So we said, okay, we'll take 5 rupees room. And bathroom outside. Lady and her husband was very nice. So they gave. Then now is Govardhan Puja coming. So we want to go to temple back and forth. Those days 3 rupees only was rickshaw. So we came and with that also 3 rupees we saved, walking and go with the devotees. Will be feel better because where rickshawala knows, we don't know. So then we go back forth. That was the first time in Krishna Balaram Mandir I came and I saw Krishna Balaram. I thought I never can come back again. And then Jayapataka Maharaj was here and Bhanu Maharaj was here. He saw us and actually the other girl was his disciple because my godbrother's wife, and I am his god sister. I know Jayapataka Maharaj from say 1970. So Jayapataka Maharaj says, you came alone? I said, yes. So then Maharaj says, okay, Athita Guna was here. So he said, can you get the ticket to go back to Calcutta? So now we have a no chance. We have to go back. Delhi temple we went. Delhi temple was Getar Kailas. There was devotees there. And now we got a ticket to go. And on the station we see there was nobody, only many Muslim people there. Train was night. And we don't know. And I am not married and she is married. Both are not Indian name, and now we got a ticket for passport, which is American or whatever Australian name there, and then I can even utter and she can even utter. So I got a paper, I got one on the station, I got some boy, I said, can you give me your pen? And he has no paper. Oh, he had a magazine. Okay, give me that magazine, little card. And then I ride. I never been to train alone, so everybody seeing the train. So I also see the train name there. So I got the name, her name and my name. I said, anybody tells you, you tell that you got married American, and I tell I'm not married. So I born in America somewhere. So that's why our name is like that. So I was little clever, so we can even utter. So now TT comes and check it and this like that. So that was first time in Vrindavan, my life. And Calcutta temple, I was always Calcutta temple devotee. Mayapur we went, Vrindavan never been. And Krishna Balaram so cute. I never thought I will back to Krishna Balaram again. So I was so feeling bad. I will never see Krishna Balaram again. I never seen also, before I never seen Krishna Balaram deities. So they were so smiling face, and devotees, those days was devotees used to dress the deities Omkar, Prabhu, and his wife, I think. And was really beautiful, dress the deities, and I never thought. So that was my experience in ISKCON, and Srila Prabhupada always give us mercy. When Prabhupada was 1977, he was very sick, and he came to Calcutta temple, and he was going to get his health together, because there was Lingaraj temple was there, and there is some devotee said, if you take that water, your stomach will get better. So Prabhupada was going to drink that water to health is get better, and that time Palika was his cook, and she had a suitcase, means the trunk, and she had always carry all those Prabhupada's Barton, this, that in the suitcase. So we all went to, devotees all went to leave Prabhupada station. So me and my brother and another man, his name was Mr. Singania, and he used to give garland to Radha Govinda's temple every day, morning and night, every day sponsor. So night his garland, Radha Govinda has every day 2 times garland change, which is no any other temple had. So after evening time they change the garland. So Krishna has a fresh garland. So we 3 of us went his car, and then we gave garland to Prabhupada. He gave us garland to Prabhupada to offer, and we gave garland to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada smiled. Then the train came, and all devotees left. But we went back to our house. That was last time I saw. And one more time I saw in last is Prabhupada was sick, and that is Mayapur. He couldn't come in the drama, and there was drama was Rasogya and her husband Lolitaksho, I think his name, and they were doing the drama of Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were really good drama. Those days I was so tired in the festival, fall to sleep in the drama, but drama has to see. So that drama was going on. Prabhupada came to the balcony. He saw from balcony that drama, and he liked it. And that was the last see I see Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. All goes to Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. You probably wonder why I'm sitting here. Whereas there's so many, because I never really lived in Vrindavan, although Dinabandhu lives here perpetually. But anyway, I'm one big giant step behind all these wonderful God sisters of mine who were bold, fearless, surrendered, and stalwart pioneers in India. So I give them my respects. To realize what they went through mentally and spiritually and physically, and also raising a family here in the Dham quite a feat. My respects to all of you. Anyway, I go back to, I did learn some lessons coming to India, and I'm still learning them. But when I was in Los Angeles, Prabhupada was on the Vyasa-san, and he said that he wanted all his disciples to go to India, become enlivened, come back, and preach. So I took this as a wonderful instruction. I wondered when I would get to go. And then in 1975, I was given that opportunity. And I was on that miraculous flight with all the devotees. Within a few minutes, we had some kirtan or something, and we were all standing up, rocking the plane, and the pilot had to come out and tell us we couldn't do that. We had to sit down. Arriving in London, and all the devotees came out with these boxes of prasadam with gulab jamun and everything. Really, really wonderful. And so then the Sankirtan devotees that were on the flight, every time we made a stop, they had their books in their bags, and they jumped out, and they were distributing, I remember, to these like soldiers that were standing there in France or something, and trying to get them to smile and take books. Rome, yeah. Anyway, very, very enthusiastic group of devotees going that time. When I get to Mayapur, the results of my sinful activities got me dysentery almost immediately, and I had a hard time. But I did learn that Prabhupada was asking why so many devotees are getting sick. And he actually said that we weren't working hard enough. So that was my first lesson, is that if you come to India, you need to work hard, I guess, for the digestion, and to keep busy. So then, after Mayapur, we took that 52-hour ride on the hard wooden, unpadded seats to Hyderabad. And the only thing that made me survive was that Nitai Das, at that time, had been Srila Prabhupada's secretary or something. He just told us pastimes of Prabhupada the whole way there, and it was ecstatic. And then every stop, like he said, the devotees would jump out and do a rip-roaring kirtan, and everyone was like in crowds all around us. They were like completely startled what planet we came from, because I don't think they'd ever seen American devotees at all. So that was really, really exciting trip. When we get to Mayapur, to Hyderabad, like you said, they had the Pandal programs. And talk about bold. Achyutananda Swami would get on the microphone and ask the ladies to send up their golden bangles as donations. And I was like, I can't even ask for 25 cents for a BTG. And here he's asking for golden bangles. And the ladies were actually sending up their jewelry as a donation to Srila Prabhupada, which was like totally amazing. So then we did go up to the Reddy's house. It was about 120 degrees. And we did Sankirtan all the way up to the house. And they fed us up to here with the most fantastic prasadam. We're all laying on the grass, passed out. And Srila Prabhupada looks out and is just so happy that we're just fully satisfied. And then baskets of fruit came by. And we all go, no, no. In addition to the Rasgulla story, we did have as many Rasgullas as we wanted, but we wanted more. So he had to send a car down to his store and take all the Rasgullas out of his store and bring them up for us.
Actually, what happened was he ran out of Rasgullas.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting there, I didn't get a Rasgulla. And they ran back to the store, they bought this pot, and he was coming down the line. And I was the last one in the line, and I guess he must have seen the look on my face, because was I going to get one? And he came to me, I was the last one in the line. And he just put that Rasgulla right into my mouth. He said, Haribo!
Anyway, it reminds me when I was in Berkeley, and Prabhupada was out on a morning walk, and we were having Guru Puja with a picture on the Vyasa-san, and all of a sudden he walked in the door and sat down on the Vyasa-san. We took the picture off, and we were in the middle of the prayers. One girl was looking so hard she fell through a window in the kitchen. And so then it got to the, Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasad, and Prabhupada stopped the kirtan. He said, that's the best part. And so it reminded me of that when we were when he was so pleased with us being completely satisfied with prasadam. So after that long ride on the wooden seats, we decided to take a plane. So we get on the plane, and the second seat, Srila Prabhupada's right on the plane. It was like quite shocking. So we went to Delhi for a few days and then met with the devotees and drove in buses here. It was about 10 o'clock at night, I think, when we arrived. And there was out here at the beginning of Vrindavan, there was one of those, bamboo things with a rock on the end for the gate, with a little string. And so we knew that the buses stopped, and there wasn't anybody. There was no lights, nobody except for Radhe, Radhe. Some little sage was walking in the dark, completely silent. So we get out, and everyone says, we got to roll in the dust of Vrindavan. So I found a ditch, and I didn't know what the ditches were really for. So we were rolling in the ditches, and the next day we realized in the light what the ditches were for. But anyway, it was totally transcendental. Luckily, in Vrindavan, we were given some service to do. It was really hard to find service in Mayapur, especially being of a very passionate nature. So we got to clean the rooms in the guest house. They had just been newly constructed, so it was like, cement dust all over the place. So we cleaned those. And then it came time for the festival. And everyone was bewildered what these dressed up coconuts with things all over them. And no one could figure out what was going on as far as the Jagyashala was concerned. And we were chanting Hare Krishna. We didn't know what was happening. And then it came to the installation. And I thought, okay, I've already been in India for a while, and I know about crowds. So I'm going to find a place where I'm completely safe. I'm not going to get squished. So I went in front of the big pillar in front of Krishna Balaram. And I think everyone's going to push forward. So I've got something, no one can get behind me. And so Prabhupada's doing Artik. And all of a sudden, the crowds go forward, and then the crowds go back. And all I have behind me is a cement pillar. And I'm getting literally squished to death. I see a little lady drop down, and she crawled on her hands and knees out to save her life. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. I'm just going to die here in the opening of the temple. And all of a sudden someone goes, come here. And I said, sure, we need someone to roll puris. I thought, oh, sure, I'll be glad to roll puris. So they take us downstairs, I think, somewhere, and they were preparing the food for the governor and all the army guys. And so I thought, they are so lucky because they picked me. I am such a fast puri roller. I am like expert at puri rolling because I was always in the kitchen. So I go down there, and they give me this rolling pin that's, half an inch around. And I thought, what am I supposed to do with this little thing? And I go like this, and it wraps around, about 10 times. And I mean, how do you roll a puri with a little teeny rolling pin? And these Indian ladies are going, boom, boom, boom. And I'm going, my ego gets smaller and smaller. And then they come in, and they wanted to taste the prasadam before it was offered to the governor because they wanted to make sure it wasn't poisoned. And I thought, wow, that is really offensive. I think we're going to poison the deities with this prasadam. Anyway, they did that, and I was quite shocked. So anyway, the installation was very ecstatic, and the deities were gorgeous. And then came time for the procession. And this was like out of a movie, like a fairy tale with the elephants and the torches and the flags and the drums and the cows and hundreds of devotees and the umbrellas. And it was like Prabhupada had gone on a rescue mission and had swooped us up, and had brought back his survivors, all who he caught, who'd survived from the Maya's influence, and brought them to Vrindavan to show everybody, look, see what I've gotten. And it was just like you felt so proud to be in that procession going down. Except it started getting dark, and it started getting narrower, the streets. We hadn't been to the bazaar at all. And all of a sudden, the elephant got bigger, the streets got smaller, and all of a sudden there's this little a long time ago, there used to be the black water ditch right in front of all the shops, and a little board you had to walk over to get to the shops, and you hope nothing fell in, especially your shoes. And so anyway, I saw devotees plunk right in that black water, and I thought, oh, please don't let me fall in there. And I'm not transcendental enough for that. And so anyway, the torches, and it was just like a fairy tale. It was like, wow, what a spiritual place. And it was like Prabhupada said, you come and you get enlivened and you go back and preach. And I must say that we took that to heart, and we would bring our girls. We probably brought over 100 or 200 girls to India, I don't know how many times, 16 at a time, teenage girls here to become enlivened, and they did. They became very enlivened. And because Prabhupada had given us the culture, unabashed, pure. And so when we came here, we saw these people are all devotees. They're all chanting. Even the trees are chanting. Look, it says Radhe on all the trees, you know. And you felt like, yes, Prabhupada gave us the most pure, wonderful thing. And all your doubts just vanished. And even our girls, teenage girls, they would come back completely enlivened. Of course, they were treated like queens. Narottam would fill them full of ice cream in Bombay. And so anyway, but I had so much appreciation for Prabhupada afterwards. But then came the big question. Someone came by and asked, I think you were temple president of Portland at that time. And of course, everyone had to surrender some devotees to the project here. And so he was wondering who was going to stay here in Vrindavan. And so he took me aside and said, so you want to stay? And I said, well, it's really transcendental, and it's a nice place to visit, and but we have duties there. We're supposed to go back and preach, and you're president, and we have deities, and we have service, but Vrindavan had already charmed his heart, and it was only a matter of a few years. He didn't want to go back, but he went back, and within a few years, he came here, and never to be seen again. So they have those Vrindavan T-shirts that say, "I lost my heart in Vrindavan," or some of them say, "I lost my shoes in Vrindavan." Well, I need one that says, "I lost my husband in Vrindavan." Anyway, what can you do? It's a good place to be lost. But anyway, it was definitely a wonderful, wonderful trip, and was charmed by the deities of Krishna Balaram. I'd always been in a Gaur Nitai temple. Our very first temple that we started was Dallas, and for our our altar picture, it was a picture of Sankachuda demon carrying away the gopis, and Krishna Balaram had logs in their hands. And this was our altar picture. So I got a little taste for Krishna Balaram. But when I saw the beautiful moon-like face of Balaram, and Krishna's mischievous little face, and Radharani's most sweetness personified face, it also charmed my heart, and I couldn't wait to get back. And I still, somehow or other, I come back. But by the Lord's mercy, I'm able to worship Krishna Balaram now in Alachua, and so that's fulfilled my desire. Anyway, the opening was something, of course, we'll never forget. And although we didn't get to play a very big part, but I think Srila Prabhupada is extremely happy that he came here and he opened up the veins of this city with the holy name. The Sankirtan and the kirtans we had here, still to this day, if you go to other temples, there's no kirtans like you find here. And the pulse within Vrindavan is still pounding and pounding because of Srila Prabhupada's bringing all of you here with kirtan.
Srila Prabhupada ki! Krishna Balaram Mandir 40th Anniversary Festival ki! Yeah. So at the opening, I also was just a visitor, as Bhima also said. So I also have to fall at the dust of the lotus feet of all of those devotees. We heard how they living in a mud hut with a grass roof with a 45, 50-degree heat, bathing in a pump. We heard all the austerities they did so we can come here and rent an air-conditioned room in MBT and drink bottled water. We didn't have bottled water in those days. So we have to pay our obeisances again and again at the lotus feet of all of those devotees who suffered so much austerity so that we can come here and relish Vrindavan Dham. So somebody was talking about 1969 the other day. I also joined in 1969 in Boulder, Colorado, right on Janmashtami Day. I came to the temple the night before. It wasn't even a temple. They were staying in a cabin outside of Boulder near Longmont. And that was rented by some hippies who let them stay. They come to open a temple. Bhavananda, Palika, we heard a lot about her. She was one of the first devotees I ever met. Her example was very inspiring to me. I have very indebted to her. And Harinama, Palika, and Karandar Sachi Devi, they were all here to open a temple. So anyway, they gave me Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, the old blue Macmillan one, if anybody remembers that. And just the introduction answered every question I had in my heart. I decided, and it was with Bhavananda's preaching, then I decided to become a devotee, and then we fasted till midnight. At midnight there was a 25-course vegetarian feast, and there was this big brown spongy looking thing sitting on the plate. And Bhavananda said, "You know how to eat that?" And I said, "Nope." And he took that gulab jamun and he threw the whole thing in his mouth. In those days we used to soak them for 3 days before we offered them to Krishna. So I took that gulab jamun, I threw it in my mouth, all that sugar juice started coming out. I thought, wow, I made it to the spiritual world. I thought this is never going to end. I've achieved eternity. And they fed us so much prasad, all I could do is, I can't move. Then I thought, well, if I could move, where would I go? Chanting, dancing, and feasting, and the absolute truth will be revealed to you. And you walk out that door and it's birth, death, disease, and old age. What's the choice? I have to become a devotee. So anyway, I was 1974, I was temple president. From 72, I was temple president in Portland. So Prabhupada wanted all the temple presidents to go to India for the Mayapur Vrindavan festival. As the Kuti said, he wanted us to get purified and get enlivened. Well, we got purified, all right, 1974. They had us doing the cooking. We had to volunteer to do the cooking. And we didn't know anything about cooking in India. There was a few cooks, but and the sabjis, I just remembered the cauliflower was black. It was covered with aphids. But everybody was so bloody sick, we just didn't care. We were just cutting them up anyway. And we were so sick. Oh my God, we were so sick. And there was no generator, so after a while, all of us living in the cement dust on the roof of the Lotus building, it was now called the Lotus building, we were living in the cement dust on the roof. And the power would go out, then because everybody was passing stool every 5 minutes, the water would run out. Then you'd have to run down with this big cramp in your stomach and have to pump the water. And then run all the way back upstairs. But somehow or other, I just felt like I was at home. Then we got to Vrindavan, and I'm eternally indebted to Guru Das and Jamuna. Because they had already heard that we were deathly sick, and they made nice salads, they made nice simple prasadam. They got some nice cooks, and they cooked for us. And they were just like our mother and father. I'm eternally indebted to Guru Das and Jamuna. They were just like our father and their mother. They took in Mayapur, nobody seemed to care about us, but in Vrindavan, they took care of us like we were their children. And I remember Guru Das, he was the one who inspired me, going around to all the temples, telling the stories. And even before I was a devotee, people used to tell you don't tell stories, you tell movies. So he was the one who inspired me to become whatever I am today. Along with another devotee I want to mention, nobody's mentioned him, he's now passed away, is our dear godbrother Padmalochan. He introduced thousands of people to Vrindavan. He wrote so many books about Vrindavan and Radhakund and Govardhan. See, he was also another big inspiration for me, taking all the devotees around and telling the stories. He was, when I was temple president here, he became the Goshala in charge. He did very nice service in the Goshala. He did so nice. He used to tell me, because sometimes in his sojourn here in Vrindavan, sometimes he left the temple and he was just moving around. Because all of us are now at the age, I see, we sit down, take prasad, and we talk about, what do we talk about? Well, I got this problem with my liver, I got this problem with my stomach, I got this scati, what do we call sciatic? He told me, this is the kata of our age, our generation. He told me, he said he used to wander around Braj, and sitting under the desire trees of Braj, these old sadhus with their hair piled up on top of their head, all turned around and piled on top of their head, and they're all discussing, yeah, I got this problem with my kidney, I got this problem. So we're deeply indebted to Padma. Across the street from the Bhaktivedanta Palace in Govardhan is his samadhi. You peek through the fence, you can see his Puspa Samadhi there. So, anyway, somehow Jamuna and Gurudas touched my heart here in Vrindavan, and I just felt so much at home. I wanted to be here. So then, 75, I decided, all right, this is opening a Krishna Balaram Mandir, so I brought Akuti along. And like she said, she did everything. Everybody knew the last year everyone got sick. So she did everything that they said to not get sick, and she got so sick.
And I got so sick, I said, I think I should go home. And he says, you're not going home. I spent $750 on your plane ticket, and you can die here, but you're not going home.
I was just going to tell that. Because I said, because if you die here, then you're going back to Godhead. That was the last line. Because those days, $750 is a lot of money. Anyway, she got well right after that. Then of course we took that. I think, didn't we stop in Puri for some Pandal program of?
No, it was a special trip we took.
Anyway, that was another time, I guess. Now they're all mixed up in the whole brain. But we got on that train to Hyderabad with wooden seats and no padding. And now we all go AC 3-tier and 2-tier and like that. But that time there was wooden bench, no padding, 50 hours you're sitting, oh my God. And I'd forgotten all about Nitai telling the stories, but somebody told them, I must have been telling stories too, because somebody told me, he said, you saved our life on that trip. And so then we got to Hyderabad, and they put us in this hotel, Vrindavan. We were sleeping in the cement dust, because it was right around the corner from the construction site. So we stayed there, and every night we went to this Pandal program. We were amazed. Thousands and thousands, 20, 30,000 people came for these Pandal programs, and Prabhupada would speak. Then he would ask for questions after. And at first he would give them microphone. But, the Indians, they love to listen to themselves speak. So they would come up to ask their question. I remember one guy came up. He says, Most Reverend Swamiji Maharaj, I have a very important question for you, because the answer to this question is very important for humanity at large. So I want to put this question to you, because this is a very important question, and I know you can give the answer to this question, because this is a very important question for the humanity, and I think you will give the proper answer to give the proper guidance to humanity. He just wanted to hear himself speak, I guess. So Prabhupada indicated to make his question. So Swamiji, we have to do the duty. We have to do, Bhagavad Gita says we have to do the duty, and Prabhupada cut him out. He said, that is monkey's duty. Krishna says, Sarvadharmam prichaja mamekam saranam braja. That's all. Then somebody got up and said, what do you think about Maharishi Mahesh Yogi? Now what's Prabhupada going to say? He's famous all over the world. I do not know who is this Mahesh Yogi. I only know Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharmam prichaja mamekam saranam braja, and I believe it. That's all. So Then we went to, the Badrukas donated a farm. We all went out to the farm. Those nice pictures, Prabhupada sitting on this white mat underneath the peepal tree, those are all from Hyderabad. And then we were going to feed the poor villagers. And all the poor villagers came, and I never saw so much gold in my whole life. All these ladies, there was so much gold on their ears, there was a hole that was about 1 inch long from the gold hanging down and on their necks. They were feeding the poor villagers. So then after that train ride, I said, forget it, I'm not going on the train. I'm going to take a plane. So then I went to the airport, and the ticket was like $130 for the two of us or something like that. And all I had was $100 traveler checks. So that means I had to give them $200, they had to make change. They got bewildered. And they looked, and then they consulted one another. Then they asked me, are you two married? I said, yes. How old are you? And I said, told us our ages. And they looked through their books, and they talked to one another. And then they said, only $99.33. And they gave me back the other traveler check. So then, this was amazing. We were going to be on the same plane. That was the safest flight I ever flew on. We walked onto the plane, and Prabhupada was sitting right in the front. You know, he sort of went like that. He saw us come, and we sat on this plane with Prabhupada to Delhi. Then we came here to the opening. That was amazing. There was this straw house right opposite the tamal tree in the courtyard with all these pots with yellow and red string wrapped all around them in very intricate ways, and all different sized pots and different sized. We were just like, wow, what is this all about? It was a big. Of course, Prabhupada said we've heard over and over that the real installation was the chanting, and this process went on for days. We were amazed, and sometimes they would bring Prabhupada and sit him in that little house, and they do all these little rituals with him, and he would take part. It seemed like he was just tolerating it, because he really said the chanting was the real thing, but he wanted, of course, that the people will accept his temple as a bona fide temple. So I remember one day they called Prabhupada out to the little Yagyashala, and it was weather like this. There was not a single cloud in the sky. Every day was just blue sky, blue sky, blue sky. That particular day, there was clouds. And I remember they were just swirling around over the courtyard. It was a very strange atmosphere. These clouds were just, and I kept looking at that. We didn't see a cloud for the whole month we were in Vrindavan. In India, we didn't see a cloud this season, And they were just swirling around. I got the feeling that the demigods came down to watch Prabhupada open up Krishna Balaram temple. It was a really strange atmosphere, because the clouds were just swirling around. Just seemed like just over the courtyard they were swirling around like that. Then there was all these big fat Brahmins who were doing all the things, and then came the Abhishek, and everything was new to us. They had the deities dressed in white and had things over their eyes, beeswax over their eyes. And at some point they took the beeswax off, and at some point they started the Abhishek. And to us, Abhishek was a very serious thing, you're pouring the milk, and they were just having a grand old time. They had hundreds and hundreds of pots, and they were just throwing it all over the deity like this. Like it was like Krishna was their friend, and they were having a good time. They were throwing the different ingredients all over the deities and pouring it and having a grand old time. And then finally the day came. Oh, that was the day. Then finally, the Abhishek was finished. I don't remember how they got. I don't even remember what happened. How somehow the deities got to the altar, and everybody's waiting for the opening. So finally, the conch shells blew. The doors opened. The conch shell blew, and Prabhupada whipped open the curtain. And all of a sudden, just like Akuti said, the crowd picked you up right off your feet, and I was going this way. About 10 feet, I went back this way 15 feet, I never touched the ground. And this is only my second time in India, and I was from the West where everything is organized and smooth, and I remember reading in the newspaper about so many in third world countries, there's stampedes and people get crushed to death and trampled to death, and I was like, and just like sometimes when there's an emergency, suddenly power comes from somewhere, like a football player. I just bashed my way out of that crowd down to the courtyard. I was so frightened. And then I turned around and looked, and everybody talks about it, but it can't be talked about enough. Prabhupada offered the incense, and he turned around, and he had this smile, full satisfaction. Sometimes in the tape you can hear Prabhupada say, fully satisfied. And that was Prabhupada's smile. And it got bigger every time when he turned around with the camphor lamp. It was even bigger. You know, by the time he got to that, we have that wonderful picture of Prabhupada with the peacock fan. Then it was really fully satisfied. That's the most amazing sight to see. Prabhupada was so full of satisfaction. He opened up this Krishna Balaram temple. His smile was just gorgeous. It was just amazing. Just every article, they got bigger and bigger to that peacock fan. And I don't know if you know the story how we got that picture, because some sannyasi planted himself right in the front. And Vishaka's trying to get picture from this side, from that side. But, you know, the straight-on picture is the best. Huh? I didn't want to mention names, but anyway, since it's already mentioned. Tripurari, he felt that he had earned it by his book distribution, you know. And she said to him, you can see, but if I can stand there, the whole world will see. And luckily Tripurari, he understood the logic of her argument. He immediately stepped aside, and we have that beautiful picture, Prabhupada with the fan. And you just see Krishna Balaram, they look like little boys. You know, now they're kings, you know, but that time they looked like little boys. I don't know what happened to them, you know. And it was just so amazing. And it was so, I guess we went back to where now Bhakti Dham and all those places are. That was called Dandi Ashram. And there we were serving up prasad with peacocks would fly onto the wall. We used to have peacocks here. It was so amazing. It was so amazing feast. And I remember there was some talking at some point, but I don't remember much about the talking. It was just such an amazing experience. And then the next morning, we're walking up and down. Everybody keeps saying Chatikara Road, but legally, it's the Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg. Where's Panchagoda? We should put the sign back up at the end of the road to get it made again. So, Prabhupada turned and he said, so, now Balaram is here. Everything is all right. Then he walked a little more and then he said, now Balaram is here. If you have any problem, you just go and say, my dear sir, I have such and such problem. He will take care of it. Then another time, I don't know if it was the same morning walk, but I remember Prabhupada asked, who's stronger, Krishna or Balaram? And everybody kept giving because Balaram means strength, so everyone said Balaram. And somebody said Krishna, and then Prabhupada smiled, he said, Balaram, he's leaning on Krishna, isn't it? So he's the strongest. And I remember when the 1974, we all stayed, even 75, we were all staying in Fogal Ashram. It wasn't like it is now. And I remember in 74, at least the section where we had, the toilet there was just a room with sand in it. And you tiptoed through everyone else's droppings and tried to find a spot. It was really austere in those days. What time is it? So, the procession. I remember the procession, that was so ecstatic with all the elephants, and the devotees immediately climbed up on top of the elephants, you know, and we had the little deities on a very beautiful cart. We had these umbrellas. We'd never seen umbrellas like this with all this gold jari for them. I thought they were very special. But you go to any wedding in India, you'll see those umbrellas. But I thought they were very special just for for Krishna. And Prabhupada walked the whole way, and we went through the whole bazaar with and it started out in the daytime, and then all of a sudden all of these lamps started appearing out of nowhere. Everything was magical for us. Just lamps appeared out of nowhere beside us, and we were walking through the whole town, all the way down through Loi Bazaar. I don't know where we went. All the way back, and Prabhupada walked the whole way. He was so proud to open up this Krishna Balaram temple and bring all of us. Of course, we had black elephants, but we were the dancing white elephants of Srila Prabhupada. He was so happy. I remember another time, I can't remember if it must have been another year, but after Mayapur festival, we came to Delhi and did a Delhi Pandal program. We'll tell another interesting. Akuti mentioned we started the Dallas temple, and then we were assigned to Houston, and we made, those days there weren't Gaur-Purnima festivals, so 1970, I guess we made either 70 or 71, we made a Gaur-Purnima festival in Houston, in a place called Lee Park. And about 2,000 people came, and we wrote to Prabhupada that we had this festival for Gaur-Purnima in Lee Park. 2,000 people came, and we were very proud, And Prabhupada's letter came back, yes, I am here in Bombay. We are having festival for 1 week. Every night, 30,000 people are coming. So anyway, we had this Pandal program in Delhi, probably at the Ram Maidan, Mamlila Maidan, over there past wherever it is, on the road to Paharganj. And Prabhupada, of course that was all in Hindi, so I don't have much memories. It was just wonderful to see Prabhupada preaching and so many thousands of people appreciating. Then they got buses. And the first place we went was a place called Modi Nagar. And somehow somebody asked me, do you want to come and see, because we're going to check out the accommodations for Prabhupada there first. So I went, and we drove to this, it was a big industrialist named Modi, and he had different factories. He had big signs, the oxygen factory was here, nitrogen factory was here, brick factory was here, big signs all on the highway, you could see all his factories. We went to this huge house with this big ante-room. We were sitting in the ante-room. Then there was an enormous dining room with a full-length mirror. And we sat down to take prasadam. And this was an amazing thing for us. Every 30 seconds, the guy would come out with this puffed-up chapati with still steam. We had never, in temple, we just cook all the chapatis and pile them all up. And devotees come home from Sankirtan. You get this cold chapati. We were getting hot chapatis right off the fire. So we saw, and then Prabhupada came, and that's where that beautiful silver Vyasasan that sometimes you see in the pictures, that was there in Modi Nagar, Lakshmi Narayan temple. Then we all got in the buses and we started to Aligarh. And Prabhupada had his Mercedes-Benz, he was in the front. Somewhere along the way, Prabhupada's car stopped, so the whole caravan of buses stopped. And Pradumna or somebody came running back to every bus. Those times it wasn't bottled water. Sometimes the devotees had canteens that they brought from the West. He says, anybody have water? Does anybody have water? Now it's not a big deal because everybody has water. And because Prabhupada wants some water, so we thought Prabhupada was thirsty. So finally somewhere in one of the buses somebody had a canteen full of water, so they gave it to whoever it was, and he ran back to Prabhupada's car, and we were all eyes, Prabhupada got out of the car, and he started walking over to the ditch on the side of the road. Then suddenly we realized what Prabhupada was doing. And we all, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. So then we went to, that's when somebody mentioned Tiger Locks. That's where we went to. We were the guests of the Tiger Locks people. And they had put on a big pandal. And we were all a little amazed because, we were used to seeing, the ladies with their hair just like in India with a ponytail. And they all had these little puffed up hairdos just like you see in the West, all pew, 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 So we did Pandal program there, then we came to Vrindavan. Maybe that was 76, because I came 74, 75, 76. And I remember those plane rides. It wasn't like now where you fly to London and then London to Delhi. We flew from New York to London. London to Paris, Paris to Rome, Rome to Athens, Athens to Beirut, Beirut to Bombay, Bombay to, of course then we changed planes, then Bombay to Calcutta. It was up and down. We knew, just like in Rome, that was the time of the Brigada Roja. So there was these guys with submachine guns at every 20 feet, And the devotees were so ecstatic. They were just trying to distribute books to them. The one guy, he put out his hand and we wrote the Hare Krishna mantra on his hand. Nobody had a piece of paper. This guy standing with a submachine gun and we're writing Hare Krishna on his hand. On that night, 75, we came back. We landed in Beirut. And when they backed the plane out, they bent the wheel. And then for some reason, security reason, they wouldn't let us off the plane. So we're stuck on this plane for hours and hours while they're trying to get a replacement wheel. And in those days, London, they had some sense. They didn't allow airplanes to take off after 10 o'clock at night or before 6 o'clock in the morning. Now they go all day long and all night, but those days they didn't allow. So because of that delay, we reached to London. It was too late to take off. So then the airline was going to put us up in a hotel somewhere. But some devotees, they got an idea, let's call the temple. So they called the temple, and I happened to be in that room, And I came to my wife and said, let's go. They got a ride to the temple. And she said, forget it. She was tired, And they said, I'm in room such and such, That's where they're going to pick us up. So 2 minutes later, she pulls up because we'd been through India for 45 days, so we know how things can go wrong. She says, I'm not getting separated from you. So we may get back on the plane, and then what will I do? So we went to the manor. And March is still cold in England. And we didn't have, all our luggage was on the plane. We didn't have anything. I just took my dhoti and laid one half on the floor and pulled the other half over my body and just shivered all night long. Then the next day, that must have been the coldest shower of my entire Krishna conscious experience, because that was during the petrol crisis, so they didn't have any heating, and there was no hot water, and the shower head had been torn off, and somehow it was a square. The end of the pipe was square. I think I meant to show that it was just liquid ice cubes coming out. Yeah. And everybody in the temple room, in the manor, everyone had one of those little carpet samples to dance on because the floor was so cold. They had these little carpet samples. They'd torn up the book. Luckily, my friend was Mukunda, so he took me upstairs. He had a little electric space heater, and we talked about old times because I knew him from when I was temple president in Portland. Then, now the devotees, they knew, just see, this is a nice story. The devotees knew that we're stuck there in the airport overnight, so then Mukunda, he immediately ordered the kitchen to cook prasadam. So they drove us back to the airport with big pots of prasadam. We get to the airport and we just sit down on the floor in the airport and put out plates, and they served out all the devotees nice hot prasadam before we flew off to New York. The spirit was like that in those days. It was so nice. You remember that? Huh? You were here. But we're eternally indebted to the London devotees for that wonderful service. So, one more story that I remember. I don't remember if it was 75 or 76 or when. But Prabhupada was on his morning walk on the Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg. And he was talking about abortion. And he's saying this society is so simple, killing the child within the womb. All the way up in his walk, he was just talking about this one thing. And he's saying, this is so simple. And he said, and this contraception, that is also simple. He said, just like, suppose I buy an apartment. Now I have right to go there. If you stop me, it is illegal. Prabhupada looked with big eyes. It is illegal. I will call the police. You will be arrested. I have right to go there. I have purchased this apartment. Or I'm living in the apartment and you come to throw me out. It is my apartment. It is illegal. Prabhupada's eyes got very big. It is illegal. He put his cane in the sand. It is illegal. So he kept saying this over and over again, that it's illegal. If I have purchased this apartment, I'm living there, you try to kick me out, it is illegal. Or I tried to go there, you tried to stop me. He said, by my karma, I have purchased a certain womb. I have right to go there. If you stop me, it is illegal. He said, they will go from womb to womb and never see the light of day. Then on the way back, he was very quiet, and there was one Indian man on the party. And some of you may remember somebody named Guru Maharaji, the 14-year-old avatar. So this Indian man said that today in the paper, because he was calling his mother the mother of God and all this type of stuff. Anyway, he married a secretary, so she denounced him. So it came in the paper today, his mother is denouncing that he's not an avatar and this and that. And Prabhupada said, And they walked a little further and he said, Swamiji, practically she has finished him. And Prabhupada stopped, he dug his cane in the sand, he looked at all of us, he said, she should have finished him in the womb. That was Prabhupada's sense of humor.
So Hare Krishna, so we have to stop here now and prepare for lunchtime. Prabhupada also was informed on one morning walk that he had a pie in his face. Someone had thrown a pie in Guru Maharaji's face. And Prabhupada didn't get with the pie. He didn't understand pie, and he kept going, what? He said, and Hansaduta saying, a pie, Srila Prabhupada, is a pie, like a dessert pie. And they threw in his face, and then Prabhupada's laughing. He said, yes. He said, that's what you should do. He said, pie in the face, he said to Guru Maharaj.
Another time somebody told Prabhupada that somebody hit him on the head with a hammer. And Prabhupada's comment was, why our men did not do it.
So we would like to thank the Prabhus and Matajis here today for the wonderful pastimes about Srila Prabhupada and Krishna Balaram Mandir. This afternoon, you're not going to want to miss being here. It's what I know I've been waiting for since the last time he spoke. We'll have Sarabi Prabhu will be here this afternoon, of course with his godbrother Gunarnava Prabhu. And Banabhata Prabhu will be speaking also. I think I just saw him. And we have a very special speaker this afternoon, Lokanath Maharaj. So please come this afternoon. Try to be here promptly. That way, the sooner we start, the more katha we can hear. So we'll see you all 4 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome to the afternoon session of Vrindavan Dham Katha and Srila Prabhupada Katha. I'm sure everyone here knows who we have on the stage this afternoon. We're very, very happy at the last minute. We were able to get Lokanath Maharaj. He agreed to come and speak. Sarabi Prabhu and Gunarnava Prabhu. I really don't think I need to say anything else. I'm very happy to have them all here, and I'm sure you are too, and we'll let them begin speaking immediately. So please give them a welcome here for being here today. And
I wasn't ready for this. Because we still have to rehearse a little bit. Hari, Hari, Hari. Hari, Hari, Hari. Gaur Hari. Sri Radhe. Sham. Srila Prabhupada. Sri Gaur Nitai. Radhe Sham. निताय गौर राधे श्याम. जय श्री कृष्ण बलराम की. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपात्तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं. परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्. आराध्यो भगवान् ब्रजेशतनय तद्धाम वृन्दावनं. रम्या काचिदुपासना व्रजवधूवर्गेण या कल्पिता. श्रीमद्भागवतं प्रमाणममलं प्रेम पुमार्थो महान्. श्रीचैतन्यमहाप्रभोर्मतमिदं तत्रादरो न परः. कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने. नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे. श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Srila Prabhupada ki. What happened? Srila Prabhupada ki. Sri Krishna Balram Temple opening 40th anniversary ki. All the assembled devotees Prabhupada Nugas ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Yeah, they are the ones they should have talked first. Surabhi Prabhu and Gunnar Nava Prabhus. They are the doers, I am just a talker. But they are just now coming, so I'm ordered to say a few words. First of all, we are happy and thankful for ISKCON Krishna Balram Temple devotees, authorities for organizing this wonderful festival, Krishna Balram Temple opening festival. Which is being attended by, well, lots of devotees, resident devotees, visiting devotees. And especially I was told that close to 100 Prabhupada disciples are attending this festival. Over, I'm being corrected, over 100 devotees. So this is very rare. This happened during Prabhupada's centennial days when we had organized a reunion of Prabhupada disciples. And once again it is happening. A lot of Prabhupada disciples, God brothers, God sisters are here, and amongst, of course, others, the grandchildren of Srila Prabhupada. Good that we have all come, assembled. The next anniversary, well, major festival, temple opening festival would be a 50th anniversary of Krishna Balaram temple opening. And let's see who makes it. Yeah, one Prabhu said, who knows, this may be the last time we are together in a big number like this. So many have departed and joined Srila Prabhupada already, and we are in the queue. I was just a thought that remembering Prabhupada, you cannot remember Srila Prabhupada without remembering his disciples or those who assisted him or even assisted him in big or small way. So when we remember Prabhupada, we are reminded of Prabhupada's followers. And when we remember Prabhupada's followers, we are reminded of Srila Prabhupada ki. It was 1972, just briefly going back into the history. Srila Prabhupada did 3 Bhumi Pujas. One at Mayapur, 72, during the first ever Mayapur festival. Then Prabhupada comes to Vrindavan. Then he had received this land to give or not to give. The chit was there in the front of the deity. And Lord, give it. Give it to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So he received the land and did Bhumi Puja. And then Prabhupada had traveled to Mumbai. And another Bhumi Puja had taken place. Remember? You were there. And that's where I had joined. That was 72 festival at Hare Krishna land. Surabhi Prabhu, yesterday he said he remembered me coming with the pant and bush shirt. In India with a bush shirt. So 3 Bhumi Pujas, like within 1 month period. The same year, 72 Kartik, I came again to the first ever Kartik festival. Prabhupada was here for entire month. He stayed at Radha Damodar, and we stayed at Kesi Ghat, that palace of Bharatpur, King Bharatpur. His palace, we were staying there. Prabhupada would send us every day with a kirtan from Radha Damodar to our property here. So that time I remember it was already a construction site. They started digging there was a design, there was plan, and the digging was taking place. That tamal tree was in the middle of to remain in the courtyard. Prabhupada purposely wanted to make sure that tree is protected, stays on. We would come with kirtan through Bhaktivedanta Swami Goshala. It wasn't there that time. Come to our land, pay our obeisances, roll in the dust of the Raman Reti on our property. And when we stood next to that tamal tree, it was same height as ours. And of course that tamal tree is not there now. This is second or third? Second tamal tree. Well then, so although things were starting in 72, there were delays because of the cement rationing or control over getting cement. There were some bureaucratic hassles, this, that, and the construction was getting delayed and delayed. They will tell you more about that. That time, yeah, they had little huts made of bricks and the roof on the top. And I think, of course, Prabhupada's quarters were not there. Even Prabhupada stayed with with them. They will tell you a little more about that. Right on the property, in the same huts, and he also took his bath in the open air. And but then finally the dates were fixed for the temple opening. Ram Navami 75, and not to be postponed any further. And so that year, 75, Prabhupada had gone, after Vrindavan Mayapur festival, he took a big group of devotees to Hyderabad for a festival. And then some 200 devotees came directly to Vrindavan, and they were assisting in cleaning, etc. And then Prabhupada had also finally come, and he was very pleased. Finally, was very, very happy with the progress of the temple construction. It was ready to go, ready to be opened in few days from then. Prior to that visit, that was temple opening time, he was here some 8 months prior to that Krishna Balaram temple opening time visit. And within that 8 months, this 40-room guest house with a restaurant downstairs, all the 3 domes, and the rest of the finishing was all done within 8 months. Prabhupada was so much pleased upon his arrival. He immediately started inspection of the construction, and we are especially happy with the domes. And he asked assembled devotees, "Haven't the domes come very nicely?" And devotees, yes, Prabhupada, they look very excellent. And that's the time Prabhupada said, you were there, and he said to you that everyone says that Surabhi is doing a good job, he has done a good job, but it's my job to criticize him. Everyone else is praising Surabhi's job, but I'm the one. This is my job to find fault or criticize or rectify the mistakes. So, is it okay now? Yeah? And then I have more to say. So, take over. Yeah, both of you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I came to Vrindavan in 1973 from Bombay on a second-class train and took another bus ride to Mathura. And then, I don't know how we got to Vrindavan, but maybe a little train again.
Closer, closer.
So, is that okay?
Yeah, better.
All right, sorry. And when I arrived, I was told to go to Radha Damodar, Mandir, because that's where all the devotees are staying. So I heard Guru Das is there, Jamuna. So I came there was nobody there. And this was in April, May, much hotter than today. And I was sitting in the shade on the roof, and then another devotee came in. His name was Cheta Guru. And we were waiting for hours and hours. All the doors were locked. And we were just wondering, are we in the right place? So we decided to go to the Jamuna. So we took our gamshas and then we walked. It was not too far away. And then we took bath in the Jamuna. And then as we were swimming there and bathing there, there was a whole family of Sri Matajis and some other people. And they started all screaming. And we thought, what's going on? So then I could understand that the other two people that were with us in the water, it was just 4 of us, they disappeared. They were under the water. They couldn't see them for a couple of minutes. So I told Chaitanya Guru, I said, well, we have to, they probably, have a problem, they don't have to swim. Because the Jamuna was quite violent. If you get into the stream, it just takes you away. The current is enormous. And there's huge turtles or tortoises? Turtles. They're about that big. And they are carnivorous. They eat anything they can eat. So I went 3-4 times down there and I tried to go with the current, and we never found them. And of course there was a scene out there. So this was my entrance to Vrindavan. It always seems to be difficult. Even this trip when we came, we had a flat tire. We had to fix the tire. I missed the flight. And so I told to Ika, I said, well, you can't just buy a ticket here. You have to go through a lot of other things. Anyway, it was sort of going late in the afternoon. The sun went down, so we went to the temple. And then I saw Gurudas there, Yamuna. And then Gurudas, as always, very nice host, gave us the tour, and he said, tomorrow we go to the site. And I didn't even know there was a site already. So I was just told in Bombay that as the project was halted, they could not continue. So I had to go first to Vrindavan and build a temple there. So then I came on the rickshaw from Radha Damodar, and there were these little huts, and there was one short man standing there, and he wasn't like this. He was extremely slim. You could hardly see him actually. So he was standing there, and he looked relieved, because he was told that, oh, now there's an architect coming and he's going to take your misery away. So right away we clicked. We sort of got along very well. And then since then I've been working with Gurudev. and then the stories will start. So he has made a list. He's very organized in this. So we're going to try to sort of speak together and speak to all of you at the same time.
Amagyana Timarandasya Gyana Gyana Salakaya Chakshu Shamilitam Yena Tasmaye Shiguruve Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I think on the 25th morning, when I was giving Bhagavatam class, I did mention, quite quickly actually, 3 or 4 stories, which leads me on this afternoon to the first story, which was about when I arrived in Vrindavan. I arrived with Smara Hare. Is Smara here? Smara is not here. And we'd come from the Ramakrishna Mission hospital. We arrived in Vrindavan very late in the evening, and we met a sannyasi, Ramakrishna Hospital sannyasi, on the bus, and he offered to put us up for the night in the Ramakrishna Mission. So we stayed in a little room, and we were so excited. We couldn't sleep at all. We were just talking to one another, and we were listening to the sounds of Vrindavan. And as it got lighter and lighter, there were more and more sounds. It was incredible, and our hearts were pumping. It was it was a wet morning, and a rickshaw was arranged for us to go to Radha Damodar temple. And when we arrived, we met Bhavananda Maharaj. He was Bhavananda. He was a grihasta at that time. And he had this really long white kurta that came down practically to his knees. And it must have had at least 100 buttons down the front. It was a huge white button kurta. And Smara Hare and I had to sort of be, in a sense, interrogated, if you like, by Bhavananda. And he took whatever money we had, or possessions, they were confiscated. We had to give them over to Bhavananda Maharaj. So we were left with nothing. We began our journey in London on a one-way ticket on Syrian Arab Airlines. We arrived in Damascus, and then after that we came to Delhi, and we caught a third-class train to Vrindavan, and then that's where we met. When we got off the train, we met the sannyasi. So when we arrived, we were already very exhausted. We couldn't sleep the first night. And then we had that initial introduction of welcome to Vrindavan by taking everything off us. You know, we were like, already we were very renounced, you know. And then as the day unfolded, we met Guru Das and Yamuna. And there was another sannyasi there. His name was Subal Swami. And I always remember he had this huge tilak. You know, the leaf of the tilak on the nose? Well, his leaf covered his whole nose. So it looked like he had a really bright white nose, and then a couple of lines going up on the forehead. And he was a very intense personality. He wasn't that friendly at all, wasn't welcoming. So I thought, wow, this is a real beginning to our journey in Vrindavan. And just rolling on quickly over the next week or so, Prabhupada, even though he was not in Vrindavan, he had given instructions that we should go to the land as quickly as possible and have these huts erected. These huts were made of like a straw roof, and they were bricks and mud. And then we had them plastered or rendered inside and outside with cow dung. And we had a very simple cot, you know, those wooden cots with the string on the top. We had a cottage, and pretty much that was it, wasn't it, inside? We had a few possessions. I think I had 3 dhotis and 3 tops. That's pretty much all I had. And in I think it was 72, Kartik, where Prabhupada, he came to Vrindavan, and he was staying at his rooms in Vrindavan, at Radha Damodar temple. And he was giving the nectar devotion classes, and devotees came from all over the world to go to those classes. And I remember Subal Swami, he was actually in charge of the construction on the land. He also had a hut, and he lived there, and that kind of suited him a lot. And we started to attend Prabhupada's nectar devotion classes. And he was thinking that Prabhupada was going to go to the end of the book and start talking about the intimate pastimes between Krishna and Radharani. But actually, all through the series, and if you listen to those original tapes, it was all about second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the analytical study of Sankhya philosophy, which went up to, I think, chapter 2, verse 19. And Prabhupada was very repetitive in what he said over a series of about 4 or 5 days. And that really agitated Subal, because he wanted to hear the nectarine pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So one morning, very early in the morning, he got up from his bed, and he changed, and he walked from the land on Chatikara Road. He walked all the way to Radha Damodar temple. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I remember this very distinctly, because he was making so much noise next door, because the huts were joined to one another, that I sort of opened the door of the hut I was living in, and I saw him leaving. And when he returned, he related the story. So because he was upset about the content of the classes that Prabhupada was given, he went to see Prabhupada at Radha Damodar temple. And he just burst in on Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was sitting up, and he was translating. And Prabhupada said, "Oh, you have come." He says, it is so early in the morning. What can I do? Why have you come so early? And Subal Maharaj said, "Prabhupada," he said, "I cannot carry on in this service of being in charge of this construction, because my mind is so agitated. I cannot chant my rounds. I cannot think of Radharani and Krishna. So please relieve me of this service. All I'm doing is signing checks, paying contractors, counting in materials, making sure things are done on time, and it's just not me, Prabhupada. It's not my nature to do this work. It's just disturbing my whole sadhana." So Prabhupada said to him, he said, when Krishna drove Arjuna's chariot between these two huge armies, and like I was saying the other morning, over 640 million soldiers were killed. Prabhupada said the Battle of Kurukshetra was the biggest battle over the last 6,000 years. What to speak of hundreds of thousands of soldiers that were missing in action. because they were using mystical weapons, and there was so much action going on day to day. So Prabhupada said, do you think Arjuna was thinking in his chariot, he was sitting in lotus position, meditating on my transcendental form? Do you think that Arjuna was just meditating on Krishna and doing nothing else?
And he spoke very nicely, appreciating Prabhupada's preaching around the world. While the deities were getting dressed by the Omkara Prabhu. Huh? That was you? No, they made the dresses, and they made the dresses. You did the... Okay, Omkar, so many other. So, okay, Naranta was part of the team. So while the dressing was going on, the whole temple was packed and filled with, we are some 600 devotees and life members and guests coming from all around outside Vrindavan, and then local guests. Achyutanand Swami, Prabhupada made him speak. He spoke in Hindi, Achyutanand Swami, and that was appreciated. American Swami speaking in Vrindavan in Hindi language. This was a big applause and appreciation of him talking. Then this Gaudiya Math Maharaj spoke. He said, the Bhaktivedanta Swami's boundlessly compassionate heart that took him to the West and brought you all here today. I was talking about the Western devotees. Here in Vrindavan, we had no foreigners before. Today, for the first time, we are seeing so many from all nations. It was addressing like that. We are indebted to His grace, meant His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada just said His grace, for showing the world the true glories of India. Seeing this beautiful Krishna Balaram Mandir and all these happy devotees, He has made this happiest day of my life. That day was happiest day of his life, as he was saying. Prabhupada spoke. Well, he said a lot, but towards the end he said this. This moment is undoubtedly increasing in the foreign countries, and why not in our country? He was questioning. They have taken it very seriously. They are not the CIA, not American, not European. They are Vaishnavas. They are the servants of Krishna. Don't misunderstand them, and try to cooperate and help this movement for the benefit of the whole human society. So meantime, the deities were ready for the first time darshan. Because devotees had been seeing them for past several days during installation ceremonies, during Abhishek. But now for first time, they'll be dressed and crowned and the flute, and so everyone, devotees all around. Before they were in the courtyard, around the temple, here, there. But as this time came closer for first ever darshan, everyone rushed, and Whole temple was packed and there was no interspace between devotees. It's totally packed. And Dina Bandhu Prabhu remembers. He said he also stood in front of Krishna Balaram temple deities. I had a little different experience, and he had his different experience. He said there was a time that he was lifted by the crowd around, and effortlessly he was moved 15 feet this way. And before he could land his feet on the ground, he was taken another 15 feet in the back. And he thought he would be crushed, and who knows what happens next. So he managed to go to the courtyard, and that was a safe zone, he thought, and that's where he ended up. Then the first time, the conch shell blew, doors opened, and there was a darshan. Oh, everyone was appreciating. What Radha Shyam Sundar ki jai. I haven't seen any beautiful deities like this. And look at Krishna Balaram, how strong they are. And look at Radha Gaur Nitai, how munificent, magnanimous they are. Each one is, all devotees were appreciating different deities that they were looking at. And Prabhupada had offered that very famous first arati of Krishna Balaram. He had not taken off his kurta. He had his attire on. He had long garlands reaching his knees. And he was making, offering one article and then offering it to the assembled devotees. There was a bright smile on his face. The next article, and next time again offering to the devotees that article, his smile grew bigger, he was smiling more, and each time he turned around, I noticed he was smiling more and feeling very proud and like victorious, as if he has won the world, or that kind of feeling. We could read on his face. Oh, this is how I read that into his faces. Then there was a drama by Vaikuntha players, killing of Jarasandha, right in the temple hall. Prabhupada sat through the drama along with the Reddy, the governor, and from time to time Prabhupada would lean over to governor and explain, this is this, this is that. After a few minutes, this is this. Just giving the running commentary to the governor. Then that evening, that was a first Gaur Arati of the deities, and there were 3 different devotees were going to perform the first ever Arati, and they together had to blow conch shells together, and everything had to be synchronized. And so first, one pujari came out, but his 2 others were missing, so he went inside. In the meantime, other 2 came out. The 2 who came out, then, hey, where's the 3rd one? So they went inside. In the meantime, the first one came out. So it took few minutes for them, all of them, 3 of them, to be in the right place at the right time. And they offered. So Vaiseshika Prabhu offered Radha Shyam Sundar first Arati. Our book distribution incarnation, Tripurari Prabhu Maharaj, he was Swami, he offered Krishna Balaram Arati. And Sura Prabhu, Surdas from Los Angeles, he offered Gaur Nitai Arati. And they were struggling to do it together. Vaisheshika told this to me, that when there was time to sprinkle the water. He was throwing water hither and thither, and he threw a little extra special water on the face of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who was standing close to Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna Maharaj had to take his glasses off and wipe it up. And then Prabhupada said, "Oh, I know Tripurari, but who are these other two pujaris?" And Tamal Krishna Maharaj mentioned, yeah, they are such and such. But they are not regular pujaris, Prabhupada. They are big book distributors. And Prabhupada said, "Oh, I understand now." They are not pujaris. They were honored or given this opportunity because they are big book distributors. They get to do the first ever arati of Krishna Balaram. Next day, I remember on the morning walk, Srila Prabhupada was talking about Krishna and Balaram on the Chattikara road or Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg. And Prabhupada said, Krishna was flattering Balaram. "Oh, Balaram, look at these trees. They are bowing down. They are sages, but they are bowing down to you. And look at this bird, they are singing your glories," like that. And then Prabhupada said, that Balaram now has come to our temple. Or that Krishna Balaram is here. Now if you have any difficulty, you could approach him and say, "Sir, such and such difficulty." And those sirs, this Krishna Balaram, they will take care. Now they are here, Krishna Balaram is here. So after morning walk, Prabhupada had come right on time for the greeting of the deities. And then Govindam started, and Prabhupada offered his obeisances to Gaur Nitai, and he stood there. Obeisances, and he stood there. Those days having 3 altars, and that was, I don't know which other temple, Los Angeles maybe, or but they are like a compact, they are not small over there. So devotees wondering what next, and Prabhupada goes to Krishna Balaram and obeisances, stands there with folded hands, moves on to Radha Shyam Sundar, and devotees follow, and they also, Prabhupada is offering obeisances. Radha Shyam Sundar, obeisances, all other offer obeisances. And then, for first time, I think, other temples, all temples had some Vyasasans, makeshift or some kind of Vyasasan. But maybe for first time we had Singhasan for Srila Prabhupada. Singha means lion, and there are 2 lions there with their jaws opened, and I don't remember the name of the artist. He had really done very good painting, and they were really looking like a lively lions, and Prabhupada sitting in between them, practically sitting on the back of those singhas or lions, and delivered his first time ever Bhagavatam lecture in Krishna Balaram temple. Are you standing? That means so Krishna Balaram temple opening, 40th anniversary celebrations. Krishna Balaram ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Jai, Haribo. Sometimes we preach, when we're preaching, we say that the anticipation of something we're about to do is generally more exciting than the actual event. But I know for me, the anticipation of this, which was very great, was definitely overshadowed by listening to to the devotees here this evening, and I'm sure you all feel the same way. We're going to have to make another session somehow. We have all day tomorrow, which is Ram Nomi. And so in the temple room, Abhishek will be starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. So the program here, which we will still have a morning and an afternoon program, the program here in the morning will be starting at 11:30. So now I would ask everyone to please stay for another very wonderful presentation by my very dear godbrother and friend Hare Prabhu, he's going to be showing you a slideshow of the Bhaktivedanta Research Center and explaining some of the things, what they do there. And also you're going to be seeing slides of the handwriting of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, which they have their very handwritings and many other things as well. So in order to move things along, I'll turn this over now to Hare Prabhu. Thank you very much for being here and look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura
Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada,
Prabhupada,
Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada,
Gurudev,
Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Hari Bol. Namo Om Vishnavadaya Krishna Vistaya.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Stota Satya Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki,
Jai,
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki,
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki,
Jai.
Prem Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasti Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki,
Jai,
Shri Shri Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki,
Jai,
Vrindavan Dham Ki,
Jai,
Mayapur Dham Ki,
Jai.
Jagannath Puri Dham Ki,
Jai,
Tulasi Maharani Ki,
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Ki,
Jai,
Ganga Mai Ki,
Jai,
Jamuna Mai Ki.
Jai,
40 years since opening Krishna Balaram Mandir Ki.
Jai,
40 years since opening Krishna Balaram Mandir Ki.
Jai,
40 years since opening Krishna Balaram Ki.
Jai.
All glories to the assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna,
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna,
All glories to the assembled
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Namo Vishnavadaya Krishna Vistaya Krishna Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati
Namaste, Saraswati Devi Gauravana Kachani Nirvi Sesa Sanjabari Jadesh Satarni. Hare Krishna. After the feast, I'm sitting down.
I think most people are lying down right now.
Most people are not even sitting down, so this is an improvement, I think, on some are lying down, yes. So, this is our last official session for the memoirs of what's called Senior Devotee, speaking about Srila Prabhupada and also the opening and the years involving the opening of Krishna Balaram Mandir. So, today, this afternoon, we have some of the Matajis, and it was very interesting asking them for biographic information because they didn't tell me very much because the humility. But over on the right-hand side, Mahamaya Devi, and I've known her a very, very long time actually. I remember in the road show, in the early days of the road show, somehow or other we traveled together separately, and she was part of the original group within the road show that was started at that time actually by Kirtanananda Swami, and we had 4 buses, Radha Damodar, and very, very wonderful time. I even remember stopping along the way to pick up a flute for Damodar, and of course there were no flutes. We wound up going to it was kind of a, what would they call a home shop now, like Bed Bath & Beyond type shop, and his first flute was actually a curtain rod. Kirtanananda really put that, utility is the principle into effect. Since there were no flutes, we got what was a gold-colored curtain rod that was made into a flute-like instrument. So anyway, that's one of my memories from way back then, and they were also the first Radha Krishna deities I was able to worship. So she goes back way early to 1971, joining in Boston, and she's in the years before she assisted Pancharatna Prabhu in assembling what was really the first base, we call this the disciple database. So she's always helped put that together and maintain that, and she's a composer, and she's written books about her time with Srila Prabhupada as well. So she's done so many wonderful things, and of course she's a Mayapur Basi, and very eager, you'll hear when you hear her speak. She's very wonderful. Moksha Lakshmi, she first met the devotees in London, in 1969, way back in the Beatle days, and off and on she was there, took initiation right here in Vrindavan in 1975, and she told me to say, she's the wife, of course, of Parshuram. If any of you know him, you know he's quite an amazing devotee who he does Rath Yatras all over countries in Europe and Northern Europe, and he has a wonderful center in the center of London area where he's been distributing, a very grassroots kind of devotee who does so many things. And what she said, piles of adventure. That's what her life has been with Parshuram. So she's going to be unloading some of those piles here this afternoon. And then right here is Rimati Devi, who she didn't tell me anything except came along 1976.
No.
No.
That's Vrindavan.
Vrindavan. She came to Vrindavan 1976. But she can tell you more about her life. But also we know, if you know of Mayapur and you know of the elephants in Mayapur and the cows in Mayapur, besides having wonderful children, she's devoted her life to taking care of the elephants for many, many years. And as she does, she's very austere and has done very wonderful service and continues to do so. We have Smar Hari Prabhu. I saw him somewhere around.
He's over there waving his hand.
He's back there. You're going to have to come and sit here, please. And I can't tell you his very early days. Of course, we have a wonderful history together. And he was here, of course, in Vrindavan for many, many years, and he's been instrumental. He also was one of the first managers of MVT when it was opening up. And he was very instrumental also with the Samadhi and Srila Prabhupada's departure at that time as well. And he continues to do a very wonderful service, and he's been in charge of greeting all of us older folks, Prabhupada disciples. One of the Mataji said to me today in the restaurant, she said, what happened to ladies first? Well, before ladies first, we have the caned people first and wheelchairs first. Then comes the older ladies and the older men, so it moves in that way. So when we get to our geriatric stage of life, men or women, here's one of them now passing by. So all of these need to be taken care of. How we know that? The women, the children, the Brahmins, and the old folks. So we're all headed to that area. And I'll stop at this point and maybe say something a little later on, but who would like to start this very auspicious? Moksha.
Moksha. After you,
I wrote a few notes to try and remind me. But first I wanted to thank everyone involved in organizing this festival, because it's just been the most amazing festival, one of the best weeks of my life. It's been like one lung Vyasa Puja, you know, on a Vyasa Puja you glorify Prabhupada. And this has been like a week-long Vyasa Puja. with a little bit of sleep here and there if we were lucky, and it's really a big thank you to everyone who made this possible. So I was a Bombay devotee in 1975, and that was before the temple was built. And Giriraj Maharaj brought us, most of us, here to Vrindavan for the opening of the temple, and we were all on a bogie. We had our own bogie, a whole train carriage to ourselves, and we all arrived, and it was very, very exciting. I'd never been to the Dham before, although I had passed through Mathura when I took the train from Delhi to Bombay. So I'd seen Mathura, but I'd never been to Mathura or Vrindavan. So it was this really exciting prospect. And of course, Vrindavan never disappoints. We had a wonderful festival. The devotees all went in buses, and we went to see the holy sites of Vrindavan. I remember at Kushum Sharova, Kushum Sharova. We were all on the side near the road, and the men were on the side near the monument, and we were all jumping off one of those big pillars. Wasn't it Kushum Sharova? I thought it was Kushum. And as we jumped off, we all shouted the name of Krishna. And it was really, it was like we're running our names of Krishna, and I was towards the end. But it was such a wonderful thing, because we were all just thinking about Krishna. And on the Ram Navami morning, I'm not looking at my notes, but on the Ram Navami morning, I remember we were eating breakfast, and we were where the Radharaman Goswami's hotel is now. We were sitting in that big ashram there, very big ashram, lots of sand on the floor, bits of grass. And Prabhupada heard we were eating breakfast, and he said, "You don't fast for Ram Navami." He said, in other words, why aren't we fasting for Ram Navami? So we all felt a bit that we hadn't fasted. So we learnt something there. You have to fast for Ram Navami. Have a quick look. We were all staying, all the Indian devotees, because there was Calcutta devotees and some Mayapur devotees, and we all stayed in one big room at Fogel Ashram. And I remember when the Indian the foreign to India, when the American and European devotees were leaving, I remember they were all giving us their shampoo and their ear cleaners and whatever it is that there was, because we really had an austere life here in India. I'll go into it a bit more in a minute. But it was very austere in those days, just for the record. Okay. Now, the second festival, I went back to Bombay after the festival because I had service there, and I don't like to leave things half done. I've been 26 years in the same service in England. So I went back to Bombay, and the next festival, which was 1976, I didn't get to go. I had to stay behind and help care for the deities. I did a lot of the backup, the ironing hankies and sewing and cleaning and sorting jewelry. So I didn't get to go. And so Giriraj Maharaj gave me I always thought it was second class, maybe it was third class ticket to Vrindavan to come and stay here for a few weeks. And I travelled alone, which was a bit scary on those Indian trains, and second class, and I didn't have a return ticket. He told me to get the money from Vrindavan, which I thought was a bit cheap. But what happened was, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, who was the All India GBC, he knew that prior to my devotee life, I'd worked with children. And there were a lot of young children here. So he asked me to start a preschool to look after everyone's children so the mothers could do service. And it was very interesting because we weren't allowed to go shopping. I think several people have mentioned that we weren't allowed to go shopping because Prabhupada thought we'd be all ripped off, which of course we would have been. So I wanted to see what was available for children in the bazaar, but there was absolutely no way they would let me go to the bazaar. In fact, I'd been here months and months before I ever got to that bazaar, and then Vishalini took me when I finally got. I never saw Loy Bazaar till, about 6 6 months after I'd been in Vrindavan. There was no shopping in those days, I can tell you. If we had 3 saris, we were lucky. So the brahmachari went shopping for the nursery. And what he came back with, have you ever seen those clay oranges and bananas and eggplants? So he came back with a bag of mitti, like clay, but not even clay. It was like water and sand mixed together, pieces of fruit. And that was supposed to be a play school. So, it was like, what? So I thought, well, we're going to have this, child-led. We're not going to have any toys. I was expecting paper and crayons and blocks. And I got a bag of clay apples and bananas. It was absolutely useless. So I thought, so what we used to do, because it was hot. By now, don't forget, I'd come after the festival, and you know how hot. So add on another few weeks. You can imagine how hot it was. So what I used to do was I had a guest house room, and in the guest house there's all these holes that go down, and in theory you can throw water and clean the floor and the water would go down the hole. I was like on the 3rd floor. So I used to throw buckets of water, and the water didn't go down the hole because it didn't work, and the kids used to strip down to their underclothes, and we used to zoom up and down the room on the water on their tummies. I think I invented the water slide. And that's what we did. And we'd go on. We couldn't really go out so much because I was alone with them and safety. And although there were no monkeys then, but and the heat, but somehow I managed to run this play school with absolutely nothing. A lot of kids just, I don't know how I did it, but anyway, we did it. So eventually, the children, they slowly left. There was Hare Krishna Das, Himavati's son. Stoka Krishna was here with his children. Upendra, who was the temple president, had a couple of kids. But eventually they all left. So that was kind of the end of my service. Although, of course, I was doing other things. We used to do the 24-hour kirtan. I used to chant from 9 till 10 every night. And if I was lucky, if someone came and took over, otherwise, you were stuck there till late until someone came. I remember one friend of mine, she's in Alachua now, her name's gone out my head, but she had like the 12 till 2 and no one ever showed up, and she was stuck there till Mangalatik every night. But anyway, it was very purifying. Satyasara, that's it. And so that was life in Vrindavan. But then I moved to Paria House. Now, Dhananjaya and Balagopala were the first people to move to Paria House. And Srila Prabhupada had said that in Vrindavan we should develop businesses for the deities so that we could support the temple, or at least help support the temple. And in Mayapur they would develop the handloom saris. I don't know if they still make them. And they would develop the devotee paraphernalia. So Dhananjaya established a Makut business, and Makut, it's Krishna's crown and his clothes. So I helped Dhananjaya with that, and I actually sat down with them. Mainly, a lot of them were Muslim workers, and learnt the whole art of, you have a table and one hand underneath, one hand on top, needles, and actually learnt the art of Makut, which is a very useful thing to know if you've got 6 months and don't do anything else to make an outfit, which I'd love to do at some point in my life. So that was, and Shakti Mati came as well. And it was a really wonderful thing to sew. But I was actually like helping Dhananjaya manage the Makut business, because that's what I did. And let me see if I got a few. Oh yeah. Now the strange thing about Taparia House, and it was a gentleman's residence of Bombay, Mr. Taparia. Actually, by fluke, my daughter met his nephew or something recently, and she fixed a visa for her. So it's funny how everything interlinked. But it was a gentleman's house, and there were 2 big rooms and then a smaller room in the main building. And one up the stairs, and then there were like smaller rooms down the sides. But the strangest part is there was no toilet. And it's, it's funny to build a house without a toilet when you think about it. So we moved there. It was Ambika and I who moved there together after Dhananjaya and Balagopala. We were the next people to move there. And there was no toilet and no running water. So those are the austerities we did. And thank God, eventually we got the toilets. But we had a well. And there were 2 buckets for the well, and one was kind of a smallish bucket. But every so often, someone would change it for this huge, great big. It wasn't a real bucket. I can't hear. Sir. Yeah, Bali, you should come and share this. You really should. But anyway, so every so often someone would change this nice bucket, this big, for this huge thing about this big, with a wooden thing over, like a big ghee or oil container with a wooden thing across. And when that was down the well full of water, I didn't have the strength to pull it up. So it's like couldn't even get hold of any water, and there was. And there were no bathrooms either, by the way. Well, there was like an empty room that we could use as a bathroom, but the problem with the empty room that we could use for the bathroom was you were never sure whether it would be full of snakes or not, or to speak of scorpions. Because in the 3rd room of the main building, it had like a cellar, and there were scorpions in there, so I never wanted to stay in that room. I know Tejas's wife, Madira, had that room for a while. That was a scary room. But the wonderful thing is, it was Vrindavan. And although there was no bathrooms, no running water, all those things, it was the most beautiful house. It had a big archway on the driveway up, the walkway up, with a creeper called tinder. It was a sabji that grew. And there was a mango tree, and there was a night queen tree, and there was a lemon tree. It was just an amazing place. It was so wonderful to live there. And every morning you'd wake up, and at 4 o'clock, the Sitaram temple over there, which I think did you mention that, Dhananjaya, didn't you? That would turn their microphones on at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you'd hear this beautiful, sweet melody. Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram, Jai Jai Sitaram, Jai Sitaram. And so that was our life at Taparia House. And we had a lot of things happen there, though. One time, Vishalini, who lived there with her children, she comes running out of her house, screaming, "Sham, sham, snake, snake!" And there was a cobra in her room. And we called the Baba from it wasn't even a house, it was some kind of a hut on the side of the Parakram Marg, because Taparia House actually bordered the Parakram Marg, and he was living just on the side there. And he came and he said he knew the mantras, who knows. Vishalini thinks it was just a business where he put the snakes in and then we paid him to take them out. Who knows? And he came out actually holding the snake here if this is the head, he was holding the head of the snake like that. So, of course, Vishalini had to pay him something. But it was still, and then there were the bish cobras. Now, I'm not sure what they're called, bish as in 20 or bish as in poison. But bish cobras, and they're like giant lizards or small crocodiles, whichever way you look, about this long. And they used to live in an empty ashram near the, Well, I don't know what they're called in English. Oh, Kishori, I didn't see you. Kishori's got some. I didn't see you, Kishori. Haribol. And you'd see those, and they were kind of scary, this huge, great big lizard thing. And one time I remember the lizard was trying to get over the wall, and I was trying to get past the wall, and it was, but it was still Vrindavan, and it was still wonderful. And that, actually, Kishori bought the first cow. Remember when you bought that cow? The cow with the baby. But the baby was big, so the mother wasn't giving much milk anymore. And the gopa, yeah. And the gopa would come with a bunch of other cows, and it was the custom that the gopa, would come and pick up all the different cows, and he'd take them down to Raman Reti for them to pasture. So it was just idyllic. Living there in one sense was idyllic. I really, really loved it there. But one interesting story. Oh, Prabhupada did come once. Prabhupada came with Hare and a bunch of other devotees. And we were sick at the time. At the time we thought it was malaria. There was myself, Vishvadevi, Mahini Shakti, and possibly Goloka, what was that? Goloka? I can't remember her name. Goloka Vasani, yeah. And we were all in the middle room on 4 beds. And next thing we know, Prabhupada's walking up the driveway, and we haven't been to Mangalartik. It's at Prabhupada's time for his morning walk, and we haven't been to Mangalartik, and they're still there all, because we had fevers. So I thought, and Prabhupada walked in and just gave us a look. So I thought, well, I better say something. So I said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, we have malaria, which we didn't. We had some kind of, having had malaria later, I realized it wasn't malaria, but at the time we thought we had malaria, but it was just one of those change of season fevers that you get. And Prabhupada, he didn't say a word, but he didn't look happy, he just looked. So it was like, So that was when Prabhupada went to Taparya House and he had to look round. There were a lot of devotees with him, I remember, and I remember Hare being there. So that was the time Prabhupada went to, because then it wasn't a Goshala then. And it was beautiful. It was not, it wasn't a bit run down. It was like beautiful, almost pristine building, you could say. So, I don't know what to say now. Okay, so I'm going to finish because I'm taking too much time. Yeah, you can tell when you got here. One thing I remember about Hrimati when she came to live there, she brought this big German cooker thing, plugged it in, and that was the end of our electricity because we had very delicate electricity. In fact, my first summer, my first summer in Vrindavan was spent without electricity. I didn't have a fan, but even if I'd have had one, there was no electricity. It was always off. So anyway, those are some it's more like the social history of Vrindavan rather than, Prabhupada memories. But all my Prabhupada memories are in Daivi Shakti's book. Please buy Daivi Shakti's book. I know it's just going to be fantastic. Can't wait to read it. So I'm going to pass over because I'm hugging the microphone.
Hare Krishna. I don't remember that it was me with the cooker. Okay, I remember having a sewing machine, but not a German sewing machine. Anyways, we are supposed to mainly talk about Vrindavan. So earlier we heard a lot about the buses that came to India to do Sankirtan. So my husband, Atmavidya Das, he was the one in charge of those buses. They went twice. First time, I think they took 2 buses, as far as I remember, and it took them 2 weeks. They went in the winter time from Germany all the way to eventually to Mayapur. Then the second time, it took a long time. So we were in Germany. I'm from Germany. I joined in 1972. And so the GBC over there was Hansaduta Prabhu. And his wife, Himavati, she was taking care of us. We were all very young girls, just a few of us. Surabi, she will remember. So when Hansaduta was called to India by Prabhupada because there was a suggestion that he will take sannyas. So some letter came, and I remember Himavati getting this letter, and Chakravarti was there and looking at it and everything, and she was pretty shocked. So because at that time he hadn't taken sannyas yet. So she immediately wanted to come to India and to convince Prabhupada not to let her husband take sannyas. They were like a team in Germany, so they were like mother and father to us. They took care of us very, very nicely. So my husband was the book publisher. He was helping all the layouts for all the German books. So when Hansadutta went to India, so he engaged my husband in getting these buses and also some Mercedes vans. So then when Hansadutta was already in India, and I believe he had taken sannyas, so Jayatirtha, there was between Jayatirtha Prabhu, and Bhagavan, that who's going to take over Germany, and then later on Harikesh Maharaj came. So Jayatirtha, so our husbands had all left. And so then Jayatirtha said, I don't know what to do with you. You have to go join your husbands. So there was Surabhi and Mana, who was Havidana's wife. And she was 4 months pregnant. Then there was Manada, who had a 2 months old baby. And myself, I had a 1.5-year-old son, Raghunath, and I was 7 months pregnant. So Jayatirtha said, no, you have to go. And this was in April. And so Mukunda in England, he arranged for our tickets. So we went to England first and spent the night at Bury Place. Bury Place was quite an adventure. So then he, carried our suitcases, and because we couldn't carry, I was, 7 months pregnant, and he arranged even for a certificate that I could go on the plane, because when you're pregnant, you're not allowed to fly. So we went on Syrian Arab Airlines, stopping over in somewhere in the Middle East. So it was quite an austere thing to do in the middle of the Indian summer. We had, of course, no idea. We weren't prepared. And but we were arranging for Himavati to pick us up. So Himavati, she came to the Delhi airport, and we were pretty tired because, we had gone from Germany to England, and this whole, adventure, and then coming to Delhi, and we were very, very tired already. And when I think the plane landed something like noontime on 29th of April, 1976. So the doors opened. Those days, you didn't have the ramp and everything. You just walk straight off the plane. So the doors opened, and it was this hot air coming inside, and it was like, whoa, I never experienced anything like it, And so Himavati was there, and she was shaved up. She was wearing white sari, and she had her head shaved. She used to have beautiful long hair and big braid. And there she was with the Sika, and she said, yeah, this is what Prabhupada told me to do. And she said, so you have landed in India, and did you bring any money? And we said, well, I got $20, and she got $100, and she got $20. So we came practically with nothing. And we had no clue what we were going to do in Vrindavan. And because the previous time our husbands, they took the buses, it took 2 weeks to drive from Germany. And this time it ended up taking 2 months. a lot longer than we expected. So we were there without our husbands. So we drove, and the car broke down. I remember I was so hot in the afternoon in the middle of the summer, one of the hottest days of the year. And, 7 months pregnant with my son was sitting, on my lap, and this ambassador, and this car breaks down, and we had to wait for the whole thing to be fixed. And then we went on, and I was like almost unconscious by the time we reached near, the dam. And so the driver, he said, Vrindavan Dam. And I looked out of the window, and there was these ladies walking with beautiful colored saris and water pots on their heads, sometimes 2 or 3 on the heads, and they're fetching water somewhere. And some goats and cows walking by, and I was crying. I was crying because we only knew Krishna book from the book. We only knew Vrindavan from Srila Prabhupada's book, and it was exactly how he explained it to us, how he wrote in the Krishna book, how Vrindavan was. So I was in tears when I arrived in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram Mandir, and I walked off the ambassador, and I collapsed. So I was lying there. I think I was unconscious, I don't know. So Himavati took very nice care of me, and we got some rooms in the guest house. And so then the summer went by, and Janmashtami was approaching, and Vishalini and Balagopala, they told me where to go to have the baby in Loy Bazaar. One Mataji was there, she had delivered their babies, so we went there. And and I went to have a checkup, and she said, oh, Janmashtami, you'll have your baby. And she wasn't quite right, because I just started labor in the middle of the night, and midnight, when all the conch shells blew. That was my first contraction. So, and we went by rickshaw. We had to look for a rickshaw. Those days there was no rickshaws. And Himavati took me to the, in the morning, she took me with Hari Krishna Das, little boy she had with her, foster child from Germany. And the midwife said, oh, this is not yet time, come back at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, bacha hey, you have your baby at 5 o'clock. So so we went all the way back to the guest house. She also told me, she said, eat some halwa, puri, sabji, and it was fasting day. So we went to Haya, and we said, the midwife said I have to eat. So he gave us all the maha, and I ate nicely, and so then about 3 o'clock or 3:30, we were going to go back, and it started raining, and it severely. It was it was on Nandotsava, so it was at a time. It was in the rainy season, monsoon season. So it was so raining, and the driver said, no, I cannot go. And she said, no, she's in labor, and she has to have a baby. And so so the whole road filled up with water, and we had to, those days was 1 rupee to go to the Loy Bazaar with the rickshaw. And we ended up paying 4 rupees by bribing the guy to go ahead and drive. So anyways, so we got there just in time, 10 minutes before she was born, my daughter, and which was on Vyas Puja day. So I'm telling this story because my service basically was I was always a mother. That is the duty of the ladies. They become mothers, and they take care of the children. And And Srila Prabhupada also called us by that name, Mataji and Mother. So Srila Prabhupada came about, I think it was 9 days or 14 days later, after he was in Hyderabad to open the temple there, and he came eventually to Vrindavan, and, no, 9 days later, sorry. And so then Bagaji, he was very a good friend of Srila Prabhupada. So he made a horoscope for the baby and, all that. And so he said, you have to go see Srila Prabhupada for darshan. And he, I said, I was so a little bit scared because in the previous years when I saw Srila Prabhupada in Europe, it was always that I had some other stories that I'd like to tell, but I don't know if there's time. Anyways, so then it finally came that we were going into Srila Prabhupada's room, and I think it was in the evening or something, because he was drinking milk, hot milk. And there was, I think Pajumna was there, maybe. I don't know if Arundhati was there, I'm not sure. Were you there at those times? Hare was there. And it was just a few people in the room, Himavati. And so we sat there, and then suddenly Himavati, she took my daughter. She had a little dress on, she was just 2 weeks old. And she took the baby and just threw the baby right on Prabhupada's lap. And she took her head and rubbed the head into Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. So that was really, and Srila Prabhupada, lift up his hands and, oh, so small, So he started talking about children, and it was very sweet. And the whole time he was having her on his lap. And it was very private kind of meeting. So then Vishwamba said, oh, we want a name for the baby. She was born on your appearance day. So then Srila Prabhupada looked at me and he said, Nandini. I said, what? What does it mean? He said, oh, there was so much excitement around that day about Nanda Maharaj, and he had the son and everything. So, and it really, really struck me, because Vishwambar, he was rubbing in that she was born on Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja, on his appearance day. But Srila Prabhupada is so always conscious about Krishna, so that he gave her a name in relation to Krishna and, Nanda Maharaj. And because she was born on Nandotsav. So anyway, this is there was a really kind of beautiful pastime. And so I don't have a lot of, Sankirtan stories to tell, but it was about children. My son was about 1.5 years old, Raghunath, and I used to dress him up in the morning and put tilak on and fresh clothes, and he was very bright and looking really nicely. And he used to go, and Srila Prabhupada used to come out of his house, go around Parikrama, around the temple, and then he'd come in and for greeting of the deities. So first he would go around the temple. So my son, he was trying on all the shoes outside, the sannyas shoes, the karams, and so then Srila Prabhupada came out, because he knew Prabhupada is going to come out and go on a walk. So Prabhupada came out, and my little boy, he goes, oh, Prabhupada, and all the devotees, the sannyasis, what's this little kid they were doing there, So then my son, he was walking in front of Prabhupada, because he knew that he was going around. So he was kind of like, the little boy, he took the lead to go around the deities, around the temple. So he would point back Prabhupada. Prabhupada. He was so proud to be walking with Prabhupada. So at that point, one of the sannyasis, I don't know, should I mention the name? He was grabbing my son and said, get this kid out of here. Hare he said, get this kid out of here. And then Srila Prabhupada goes, no. This boy can walk in front of me. This boy is a very nice boy. So they continued the morning walk, circumambulating the deities like that. And I thought Prabhupada was so, merciful like that. So yeah, we were also in Taporia house, and I don't know, am I supposed to talk about anything else besides Vrindavan? I have 2 more minutes. Okay, so 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes not yet over. But I tell one more little story, because Srila Prabhupada, of course, he was not pleased that all the grihastas were staying in the guest house. So he was not pleased with that all the kids and all running around. And so he was not very pleased about that. So he sent us to Taporia house. But one day I was staying in one of the side rooms. So that I was putting my baby in the crib, and there was a black cobra about this long under the bed. And I went to the door, and I goes like this, sharp, and to the chokidar, and he said, "Oh, sharp? I'm not going." So that was my end of Taporia house, and we eventually went to Hyderabad at the farm. And I just wanted to tell how now I take care of animals and of cows. And I could see because I saw how Srila Prabhupada, how he was so eager to have a farm. When he was in a morning walk in Hyderabad, now my husband told me this, when he was people would pay their respects on the road to him, Swamiji, where are you going? And he would, lift up his head, I'm going to my farm, So I was there, and Srila Prabhupada was giving so many instructions about cultivation, about cow protection, and so on. There's many pastimes of that time in Hyderabad. However, only one little pastime I want to tell. One time we had also this bucket system drawing up water from the well. So the cows, they were mostly useless cows, and one cow was coming. They were coming back from the pasture to the Goshala, and one cow pushed herself through, and I was just pulling up the water when Prabhupada came in. He was talking about how to pump the water up with a pump and to water the fields and everything. So he was there, some devotees were there discussing with Prabhupada. And so this cow came pushing herself through the crowds of devotees, and she went straight for the bucket to drink the water that I had just drawn up. And it was the bucket that had the string on it. So she drank the whole thing and then left. And then Srila Prabhupada looked at me, he said, now you have to wash the bucket with her stool. Because the mouth of the cow is considered unclean, and the stool is considered clean. Haribol.
Okay, I guess oh. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. My name is Mahamaya Devidasi, and when I joined the movement in 1971, I didn't have any desire to go to India. But when I heard about the first international Gaur Purnima festival in '74, I really wanted to go, but I didn't get to go. So by the time 75 rolled around, I was really ready. Or so I thought. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. That year, contrary to what I've heard other people say, we didn't have the full plane, but it was like most of the plane. I think it was 76 that was the entire plane. And we landed, the plane went from New York to London, picked up some more devotees, and then we landed in Bombay because Calcutta wasn't an international airport. And I remember in the airport in Bombay, there was fans like there is in this building, but they were moving really slowly. And it was like the way I imagined India to be. Just like the slow-moving fan didn't really help the heat situation. And anyway, then we flew to Calcutta. Buses met us at the airport, and we drove to Mayapur. And even on the way to Mayapur, I was just falling in love with the lush countryside, seeing the ponds along the road, people washing their clothes and living from the pond. And it was just so natural and beautiful. And when we got to Mayapur, it wasn't like festivals today where everything is just taken care of and you just go and eat prasadam and you go on the parikrama. It wasn't like that. We had to do everything. And I remember the ladies were assigned to miss Prabhupada's morning Bhagavatam class in order to cut up the fruit for breakfast. And we didn't even want to eat cut up fruit. We were all told, don't eat cut fruit. In India, you're going to get sick. But we had to cut it up anyway. Then the men assigned by temple had to do the 24-hour kirtan. So they were up in the middle of the night. So everybody had, some service, some austerity. And at least in Mayapur, we did a lot of service. 150 of us took the train down to Hyderabad, and you've heard a bit about Hyderabad Pandal program, and inaugurated some railway train station near the Hyderabad farm, and we did many different things. And then we went on to Vrindavan. What I remember is it was 400 devotees had come to the festival. Some people have said 1,000. I don't think so. Anyway, my main memory of Vrindavan Festival and the opening of the temple is something I haven't heard everybody's talk this week, but I didn't hear anybody say that. I remember Prabhupada saying, after the various VIPs spoke, and it was mostly, if not all, in Hindi, so we didn't understand a word of it, but Prabhupada kept on saying, do not be disappointed. Do not be disappointed. Do not be disappointed. And we're all sitting there like, whoa, I wonder what they've been saying. And we at least the conclusion I came to was they were not on board with us being real Vaishnavas, real Brahmanas, and so they were saying some negative things about us, but Prabhupada was encouraging us. He's saying, do not be disappointed. So that's one of my main memories of that festival. And I do remember going on parikrama every day in Vrindavan. We'd just go out for the day. And what I remember is Dina Bandhu took us around. Is that right, Prabhu? You didn't take us on the parikramas? The ladies. I thought it was, well, whoever took us out, we just took a little extra time and we kept on coming back late. And Prabhupada came to hear of this, and he was concerned, so he wanted us back on time. So the very next day, our bus broke down, and we were really late. I mean, we came back, like, it was dark. It was really late. But I also remember on these parikramas, we'd get to some place, and it would know that particular pond, if we bathe there, we're going to definitely be able to go back to Godhead. And we're all going, well, we want to bathe here. But the person leading the party says, we have no time. We have no time. What if we accidentally fall in? Okay, for 5 minutes, if you accidentally fall in, what can I do? So then we started pushing each other And there's one place, this girl from South America who didn't speak any English, her glasses went flying off into the water, and it was really like, slimy, and, we couldn't find the glasses. And anyway, we stayed there until we could find her glasses. But we were all bathing just entirely dressed, and then we could hardly walk. But, we were just like eager to get that mercy, So, so after this festival, I really actually wanted to live in Mayapur, but I was just happy to be anywhere in India, and I got permission to stay in India. It's a long story. I kind of didn't. I was working with the BBT. I was composing Prabhupada's books. That is the summer that they did that huge marathon. I mean, they needed me, but I squirmed out of it. But before the marathon started, I actually did go back to America when my visa ran out and volunteered to help typeset. They didn't want me. I have a reputation for being independent and unsubmissive. Later, of course, the devotees who were composing saying, we would have loved to have your help. There was like 2 of us who were trained up to run this machine.